We'll get started in just a sec. We're just trying to get our last council member into the Zoom room. Oh, there he is. Okay.
I'm here. Thank you.
Hey, David. Okay. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:33. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Here.
Councilmember Pulapati. Here. Councilmember Sander.
Here.
Vice Mayor Budge.
Here.
Mayor Terry.
Here. So with that, I'll ask the clerk to read the television announcement, which is item 2.
The meeting of the Rancho Cordova City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will air on Sunday, March 27th at 1 p.m. and Tuesday, March 29th at 9 a.m. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14. A DVD copy can also be ordered from the City Clerk's Department, and a webcast of this meeting will also be available within 48 hours of adjournment of this meeting.
Thank you. So item 3, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I know we're going to present something later, but Cheryl, would you be willing to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. And after that, I show we don't have an invocator tonight. Garrett, you want to cover us for that? Okay. So with that, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then please stay standing for the invocation.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing this day to us. Please watch over us as we make decisions. Please help bless us as we go forward and seek what's righteous. Please be with our brothers as they fight for freedom around the world, and please help us to take these next steps. In your name we pray.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll move on to presentations, and if we could have Ms. Longworth from Seroptimus International come up along with your fellow colleagues. And Siri, I think you're going to do this one for us. Thanks. Yeah, I always do that one. I don't like my hands full.
Always do that one.
Well, I'll use that.
Brought the troops.
Awesome. Fantastic to see all of you here. I'm really, really happy to be giving this proclamation here today. So, we're going to give this to Seroptimist that was formed in 1921 in Oakland at a time when women were not permitted to join service organizations. Now, this is a global volunteer organization that provides women and children with access to education and training to achieve economic empowerment. Today, there are approximately 30,000 members across North America, Latin America, and the Pacific Rim. The local chapter has served, Rancho Cordova and Gold River has served the city and surrounding areas for nearly 13 years. Wow. And it has helped to give support and hope and empowerment to 1,800 Folsom Cordova Unified School District students and 1,300 domestic violence survivors. By making and providing comfort kits, and has presented college scholarships to 21 single moms to help them achieve their dream of higher education and to help them raise the quality of life for themselves and for their children. Now therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Rancho Cordova does hereby recognize the Seroptimist International of Rancho Cordova and Gold River for their contribution to the health and wellness being of our community. So on behalf of Mayor, who has set his hand and caused the seal of the City of Rancho Cordova, on this day, the 21st of March, we give this proclamation to the Seroptimist International of Rancho Cordova and Gold River in honor of Women's History Month. There you go. Congratulations, guys, and thank you so much. Do you have anybody to
Oh, Tara.
pick one? Come on, ladies. Anybody else?
Come on, Tom.
Hi, Gary.
You know me, this is where my cousin is.
Come
the
here.
head's Seroptimus
That's
in
right.
Eureka.
That's right.
My grandmother was a Seroptimus.
Oh, wow, all right. Get the 7 degrees of separation here.
Got it?
All right,
All right,
right.
thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Oh.
Oh, wait, the city wants a picture.
Oh, see.
Here, let's hold it up. Hold it up.
All right, thank you.
Got it?
Yeah. And I'd just like to say we're adding to our dossier of contributions to the community. We're starting a trafficking awareness campaign and education, so we're going to stop that horrible crime too. So
Thank you, Seroptimus and Cheryl, for all of your years of service and leadership in this city. With that, we'll move on to public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time via teleconference or by completing and submitting a speaker card to the city clerk. If you want to make a public comment via teleconference, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom center of the screen. If you're on an iPad, I'm pretty sure it's the top right. Please press *9 to raise your hand. For those participating by Zoom or telephone, please wait to be called upon by the city clerk. For items on the agenda, speakers will be called by the mayor at the point on the agenda when the item will be heard. Speakers are encouraged to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less and state the name and community of residence. Under the provisions of the California Government Code, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking immediate action on any item not on the agenda unless it can be demonstrated to be of an emergency nature, or the need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, so I'm going to start with the public comment that I have received via email. Those public comments have been printed and are in the back of the room for those in the council chambers and have been distributed to the city council and will be available on the city's website. Those that I have received public comment for via email include Rakesh Sagal. Second is Harry Kahara. Third is Joey Penman. And fourth is Mandeep Singh. For those that are in the room, I have a couple of speaker cards and then I will move to Zoom. So the first speaker in the room is Faiza Mughal. Following Faiza is Helen Whalen Bashaw. You'll have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Faiza Mughal. I'm from Lincoln Village. On Tuesday, February 22nd, I stood right here and requested that the City Council adopt an anti-Black racism resolution that would be authored by Black advocates, Black community members, by me, and specific staff, a motion you all unanimously approved. But 2 days later, I was called and told to send in bullet points so staff could author the resolution themselves. I was given a 4-day deadline to do this. I was stunned by this approach because I fully expected staff to live up to what had been publicly approved, to work with me and other Black folks to put this resolution together, not to exclude us from it. So I dug my heels in, as I like to do, and insisted on a few extra days to put together a proper resolution. Next, I held my own work sessions with Black folks smarter and more accomplished than me to draft a comprehensive anti-Black racism resolution we were proud to support. A week after that phone call telling me to send in my bullet points, I turned our anti-Black racism resolution in, handing over the product of our emotional and intellectual labor, not realizing that would be the last time staff would allow me anywhere near the work that I had brought to life. Fast forward to Tuesday, March 14th, when I had a chat with the president of our local NAACP chapter, Miss Betty Williams. It turned out our Black-forged anti-Black racism resolution had been heavily altered and then pushed forward for the NAACP's approval. That wasn't my resolution she saw and got to approve. It was somebody else's. your staff sought to gain token Black approval so that they could claim their version of the resolution was Black approved, while seeking to silence Black voices like mine behind the scenes. We do not approve of tokenizing our people, of disrespecting our emotional and intellectual labor, and trying to pit one Black group against the other, just as I've seen done here towards the Black Student Union at Cordova High when they got a little too loud about having cops on campus. I can say definitively that dealing with your staff while putting this anti-Black racism resolution together has been a very anti-Black experience. There is a culture of racism here so firmly rooted that it prevents staff from understanding that Black tokenism is itself an act of racism. I need you all to hear that, please. It is the go-to move for your team, and I'm frankly tired of it. I credit the NAACP's Miss Betty Williams for holding staff accountable for trying to tokenize us both. She facilitated a do-over opportunity, just like I initially asked and was approved for, where we will all finally sit down together and make this thing happen. So thank you, Ms. Betty, for setting things right. And it took an adult in the room to make that happen. In light of staff's actions, I wish to publicly share that the anti-Black racism resolution will be updated to reflect a commitment to anti-bias training for your staff.
Your time is up.
Thank you, especially for those in management positions. And I will continue to require diversity, and especially Black diversity in leadership staff positions, in the hopes that we can put an end to this insanity. Thank you.
Next speaker is Helen Whalen Bashaw.
Greetings. I'm Helen Whalen Bashaw and I live over in the Tiffany area. I have two issues here. First, last meeting, I heard the canned response that the city does not accept racism, pretty much. I'm a little taken back because the cartoon that was shown, if it is a cartoon, was very racist. And my concern is, they said it was Sacramento's problem. My question is to the city of Rancho, were any of the law enforcement officers that are on our police department or that we get from the sheriff's department, were any of them recipients of that cartoon? Who else got that cartoon? And my question is, all you who say that we do not support racism, what action did the city take to correct the any wrongdoings by any member of the Rancho Cordova management or employee base that might have gotten that cartoon and shared it? Because sharing it and not being a whistleblower on it is just as damning as the one that presented it and got to retire rather than lose her pension. So I think the city needs to dig deep and really look at everybody that received that, because you have a right to that. There are people in your employment and you have a right to know who got that email. And I do support what Faiza just said about the need to allow a Black voice in the community that is from the community on that one. Another thing I'm going to move to is a few years ago we spent a lot of money putting calming asphalt in my neighborhood. That I would like to know, and maybe you can check it out, Cyrus, why is it cracking all over the place? I had a forensics person come in. I even told Dave Sanders about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, that they told me that was a bad job put down, and they told me what was wrong with it. And Dave said to me, "What made you do that?" I said, "Because when I see cracks in new asphalt that hasn't even gone 5 years or 10 years, and we're not in a snow or an ice area where it thaws and freezes, I want to know why is our money going into new projects but have bad results." So I think the city needs to do some research and find out how much asphalt we've laid and how much of it is now cracking. Thank you.
I'm now going to go to Zoom. Anil, I see that your hand is raised, and I'm going to unmute you, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Honorable Mayor, City Council member, and my fellow citizens. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you, Neil. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to share a couple of things from the weekend festival that we had it in Rancho Cordova, the Festival of Colors. Community was overwhelmingly attended, and it was one of the great events that we organized in this city. And this time we have the exact number of registrations, and you will all be surprised. The official registration that we received for this event, 1,423 participants registered for this event. And people attended from across the region, Nevada City, even from San Francisco, people attended here, and it was very well received. And thank you to the City Council who approved the community enhancements for this one. We really built connections within the community. People really felt happy about this event. They felt it's a community sense. And we'd like to thank you, Council Member Siri Pulipati and Council Member Garrett Gatewood, who attended the event, not only addressed the gathering, but they also participated along with the community members. We also have a guest came from Los Rios Community College District Representative Tammy Nelson, and our park board member Rick Solon also actively participated. We really thank you for your support, and I think Mr. Gatewood needs to have a special credit on this one. During his first year as council member, I would say he co-founded this event. When he joined with us 5 years back, there was only 25 participants. And yesterday, we have seen 1,423 registered participants, and there are many more unregistered participants also attended this event. Thank you very much for this one. And to end my note, I think Council Member Gatewood and Siri Pulipat has a nice dance moves, and community really enjoyed that. Thank you.
You're not welcome, and thank you for not throwing us on the bus on our dance moves. Listen, I was hot fire at that dance. I'm going to tell you right now, those were some moves. I moonwalked, had a purple face, pink clothing.
And Anil, I think you're scaring us away from the future event. We have to get color. We have to get all sorts of flour dumped on us of varying, I don't know, colors, I suppose. And we have to dance. That's asking a lot.
And I guess for those of us that missed it, we got to do extra. Is that what happens next time?
That's the thing, yeah, because now we got to make up for it. We got to match Garrett's hot moves out there, whatever he just said.
It's called hot fire moves. Hot fire moves.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Anil.
Mayor Terry, that's all the public comment that I have for public comment.
Okay. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to council reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Gatewood.
Excellent. We'll start with the first thing. Welcome to the Total Education Solution. They're a brand new business that opens up. They help out with educating individuals and people that are struggling, younger kids, and they are great. And so we love seeing a new business move into Rancho. Thank you to the BIA for recognizing what an amazing real city to build homes in Rancho Cordova is, and they spotlighted us and talked about how we have become one of those places that you want to build, and so that's awesome. Went to the Region Builders event, and they wanted to hear from us politicians on where they could come and best along partner with us, so hopefully we'll have a lot more of that. David was with me at that, and a bunch of other politicians all came together. Then, of course, the Holly Festival of Colors. So here's what happened. I went to the Holly Festival of Colors, and I was dressed appropriately. White shirt, jeans, my kids, white shirt, jeans, and they colored me with colors from head to toe, from pink to green, everything else. And I'm still sneezing out amazing ink today. So then I had to go to meet.
Again, selling the heck out of us going.
Listen, your head is going to be amazing because there's less hair and it's going to be like right there. It's going to be on point. Now, second thing was I went home and changed. And then Anil says, hey, could you please come back? We just want to put you on stage real quick. I was like, okay, cool. I'll come back. Mistake. This is the third year in a row. You got me, Anil, and you've wrecked a suit. And my wife is super mad because it's ruined. So I came in and all my friends that are in that group in the Talagana Association ran over and gave me hugs. So first I'm lightly dusted with pink. I can still go to the Korean ambassador and still not be foolish. Then a little kid comes up, opens up the bag, and splash! And I'm covered from head to toe, and the suit's ruined, and the jacket's ruined, and the new scarf, the Burberry scarf she got, ruined. Wrecked. And then, well, at that point, it doesn't really matter. So then they all dressed me down with more colors, and then I danced. Still had to go home and shower for my next event. So I'm down another 3 suits, and every year, you get me, every year. All right, then I went to the Korean Arts. Thank you to BJ who brought, he's not an ambassador. What is he, Linda?
He's the consul. He's the consul general from San
The consul general from South Korea came through. And that was really cool because they show us the typical dance, and it's weird because they do this head whip thing. And we got to go out and they did the spin thing, and my kids were there. And it was funny because they're like, and we're gonna give you some food from Southern Korea that's natural. And we're like, cool, what is it? And it was chicken wings. Thought that was hilarious. My kids were like, this is Korean food? And they're like, yeah, it was delicious. And so then we did a bunch of dancing, and the families were cool, and we got to see that, and so that was exciting. And then I just want to say a thank you to one of my favorite groups, the Elks Lodge. Amazing group of retired veterans and individuals that really have donated, and I always say are one of the founding groups of the city of Rancho Cordova. They picked me as Rancho Cordovan of the Year, so thank you to that group. It was amazing. I went and bought a bunch of cakes and pies, and they had corned beef and hash, which is literally one of my favorite meals because it's super salty. And they did fries instead of potatoes, which is even more amazing. So, yeah, that was an awesome day. So thank you to all that. I feel humbled and honored that you guys would even think of me. And I love that the city is partnering with you guys and finding ways to take those next steps. So thank you to all that. And yeah, it's been an amazing last 2 weeks, and thank you for your words, Faiza. We are aware. That's it for me.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to Councilmember Pulapati.
Okay, so I'm gonna go in order of the events and workshops I attended. So I'll start with the Rancho Cordova Chamber of Commerce Business Outlook and Economic Forecast. This was a really well-attended event and very well put together by the Chamber of Commerce. They had a wonderful line of speakers, and they talked about the development projects, economic development initiatives in new businesses that are coming to the city of Rancho Cordova. All in all, it showed a very bright future here for our city, and we have a lot to look forward to. So thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for that event. That evening, I attended the Community Council's Community Volunteer Awards. Again, I mean, this I think goes to Shelley. There was this dance that she had that really was very exciting, and I really liked it, the way she started off that event.
What was exciting about it, Siri?
They had a beach play.
Oh, was it the beach play?
Yes.
It wasn't the 2 buff guys that were flexing the whole time in front of you?
Yes, they represented the well and fit Rancho Cordova. Yes, it was really nice, very unique. So I think
It was hilarious. Hilarious.
Garrett and I were the council members in attendance, and this is for people that generously give their time and expertise to serve the community of Rancho Cordova. I think Bob McGarvey was acknowledged, so was Don Natoli, and so many others who've given back to the community. I did read somewhere that, we think about start of civilization as, many things, but it's actually when the caveman stopped to help another caveman, they broke their leg or something, they actually stopped to help them, and versus just moving forward and letting that person go. So that is the start of civilization, and giving back is what we are meant to do. So thank you to all those who received awards, and we have to have so many more of these.
Yeah.
Then I attended, this was my first time attending the Congressional City Conference by the National League of Cities. This was in Washington, D.C. Again, a huge lineup of speakers. This was my first time attendance there. And one of the speakers was the President of the United States of America. And so it was his very first speech in front of so many people. There were like 2,000 people in attendance, which included obviously council members, mayors, other staff. And so he gave a really rousing speech. And so I should really thank Councilmember David Sander here, because I got to sit in the very front row in front of 2,000 people to hear the speech from the President of the United States of America. So I was really happy, and thank you, Councilmember David, for that. So in this session, I learned how other cities are using the ARPA funds. And also another thing I learned is how other cities are managing their city meetings. So moving forward, I'm going to keep my updates to 5 minutes. That way, we can get through these faster and go to the real agenda. So just for today, if I'm going over 5, let me know. And then I went to a First Tech Challenge Metal Maniacs event. This was a tech event. We talked about the importance of STEM and how we need more girls in the field of STEM. And given that this is Women's History Month, I talked about the great leaders we have here in our city, including Linda Budge, and how women need to step up more, especially now with the she session, which is more women leaving the workforce given COVID. And last but not least, I will end with the wonderful event of Holi, which is the celebration of spring, where we throw colors at each other and have a blast. This was such a wonderful event, very well attended. I mean, the weather was awesome. We were thinking it's going to rain. And Anil kept saying, let's do the rain. It's going to be rain or shine. We're going to do it. Let's have a rain dance. But the weather turned out to be awesome. I think this could be like a signature event for the city of Rancho Cordova, because, guys, the energy in the park was awesome. It feels like spring. And that's my update for today, Mayor.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to Councilmember Sander.
Very good. I'm going to limit my update to what Siri was just talking about, the Congressional Cities Conference put on by the National League of Cities last week. So I feel like I've spent most of my last 2 weeks there, but it's only because so much happened while I was there. I'm really glad Siri could come along. I'm glad that my access benefited her a little bit. I was given, my spot and then like a staff member spot or a spouse spot or whatever. So whenever I could put Siri in there, that worked well. And she got the nice seats out of the deal. I had a very unique experience as second vice president of the National League of Cities, because all of the speakers who are on the stage have to be entertained and talked to behind stage. And so they turn to the leadership in the NLC to do that. So I had time with the president one-on-one, time with the Speaker of the House, quite a bit of time, time with cabinet secretaries and other administration officials. And so the wonderful news I can bring you back from Washington is that all of those folks have now heard about Rancho Cordova and know about us, and sometimes acknowledged us from the stage. So that was kind of
Let me
cool.
add, Speaker Nancy Pelosi acknowledged David Sander and the city of Rancho Cordova on stage. So that was huge.
So that was pretty fun, and it gave me an opportunity to sort of talk about our situation as a mid-sized city, although somewhat even on the national level when you're there, it's kind of like we're a larger city at 80,000. But in California, we certainly feel a little more mid-sized. But it gives them an opportunity to hear from me about what it's like to be that mid-sized city. So for the Secretary of Transportation, I talked about, you've got 148 programs that people can apply under to try to get transportation funding. And even for us, it's a little hard to figure out which of the 148 makes sense. Now imagine, the vast majority of cities are much smaller than us. Imagine you're one of them, and you can't afford to spend $10,000 or $20,000 per application and staff time and consultants et cetera, engineering. That becomes a huge barrier to actually getting stuff done. And so even though there's all these resources available in the past couple of years, if they can't be deployed to the regions that need them most, to some of the most disadvantaged regions with some small cities without that ability to pick it up and use it, then we've got a problem. It's challenging for us. So imagine how many cities it's really challenging for. That message got through. The most interesting feedback I got, though, was from the president. He was introduced to me and who I was, and we were talking, and I asked him, do you think there's a way to reset the relationship between the federal government and local government? Because so often the federal government turns to the states to say, oh, we want to get this done. Here, states, go do this. And then the states pay no attention at all to cities. You know, they just do what they want with the funding. We've certainly seen that. Linda, you can remember the original stimulus when President Obama was in office, and we were facing that housing crush recession, and federal government said, oh, good, here's a bunch of stimulus. You can use it for infrastructure. And it went to the state of California, and well, that was pretty much it. Went to the state of California. We got a little bit back. Some states, lots of states, they gave nothing to cities. This time it was different. They dealt with the 19,000 of us. So I said, is it possible, Mr. President, to reevaluate, you know, on a government-wide level, how we deal with local jurisdictions? And he said, well, you know, you've got the hardest job in the world. Being a city councilman is the hardest job in the world, because I've done that job and I know what that's like. It's much harder than anything else. I thought that was an interesting endorsement of the role we have in local government, because when you start tallying up what matters to people, it's almost always local government functions. It's roads, it's streets, it's public safety, it's schools, it's economic development, it's maintenance of parks. All of these things are local. They're not federal issues. So I had a great week. I think Rancho Cordova had a great week. I brought back a bunch of information. I've done my job and irritated staff a little bit about some things that I heard there in different meetings. And I look forward to many more partnerships that are going to be available to us because of this role I have at the NLC. That's my report.
Thank you, David. Vice Mayor Budge.
Okay. Mine's not that glamorous. You guys have been out glamming up the world. Regional Transit met. On a down note, of course, they are still short of bus drivers. And on a positive note, they are going to have 2 more hiring events coming up on the 22nd, which could be tomorrow, and then on the 30th. And both of them are at the RT offices downtown. And I am hoping that their public relations people gave Maria and her staff some information that could be posted on our website. On a positive note, they are getting $5.25 million. It's coming from a bus facilities fund, and it will start to provide additional money for the new, I have CNG buses written down, but I think it's really part of the switch to electric vehicles. I took 2 of my girls to the ceramic exhibit at the MAC. This was a huge conference that came from all over the United States, and they were extremely pleased to be able to have been asked to be one of the hosts for this conference. And it was particularly meaningful for my girls because one of them is in a ceramics class at Cordova, and one of them is in IB art at Cordova. So I suspect, and they took tons of pictures. And for anybody who didn't get to see it, it is amazing what you could do with ceramics. You'd be really quite surprised. A couple of the exhibits involve lengths of ceramic that are approximately 9 inches long. They're all hand rolled. They're done in different colors. They're hand rolled, not extruded, because apparently there's a ceramic extruding machine, and they come in different colors. And one of the pieces had 5,000 of these individual ceramic sticks in it. So that means every time you put this thing together in an exhibit somewhere, it comes out completely differently. It was really quite fascinating. And then, as Garrett said, a bunch of us went over to KP Market on Saturday afternoon. Remember that KP is the place where you can see a concert in a grocery store, which nobody's ever heard of before. And so this time we had the Korean dancers, or I'm sorry, it was Korean performers from Chung-an University in Korea. These were young men at the university. It's called Yo-um, which means sharing sounds. And they were drummers. And as Garrett said, these kids had on hats that had a very long tail to them. And by the way they moved their heads, these tails wrapped around and made a performance in themselves. And it was really quite fascinating. And then that was the first half of the performance. And the second half of the performance had to do with what seemed to us to be either telling a story or a competition. And it turned out they were telling a story that has to, there are 4 different kinds of drums. And each drum represents either wind, rain, clouds, or something else. I forget. Sorry, I'd have to look it up. But it was a wonderful afternoon. It was very inspirational. And the idea was to establish a relationship with this young man who is currently the Consul General. This is about the 5th Consul General I have met since we've been incorporated. And the idea was to talk about 2 things. VJ would like to bring a K-pop performance to his parking lot. And see, Garrett, he thinks there would be a huge attraction for that. And then the second thing they'd like to do, Shelley would like to bring something that represents South Korea to the International Festival. So we have a pledge from the Consul General to work on both of those items. So it was a very productive meeting after the performance. And that's my report.
Thank you, Linda. And I will say, if anyone's wondering why gas prices are up, I don't think any of us have reported going somewhere on a city-sponsored thing for years, it feels like. And the fact that we all had different things that we're out doing, and it just seems like the whole world opened up all at once. And clearly, it's one of the reasons that supply can't keep up with demand. So let me start with some of the more money.
Some of us, Mayor, don't have to worry about gasoline.
Yeah. So I'll start with some of the more mundane things. Cap to Cap has already started registering. If any of you are planning on going, it's the end of April. Like I shared before, I'm continuing to share the community and the community resources team, which is really affordable housing and homelessness and housing as the whole continuum of housing, from affordable housing to market rate housing to missing middle and all that stuff. Let's see, in the last 2 weeks, the Sacramento Homeless Policy Council met for the second time ever. The main takeaway is the council and Sacramento Steps Forward and a handful, and the continuum of care in general, is working on a homeless response system and plan. As part of that, there will be a financial ask to each incorporated city as well as the county. The city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento are obviously going to be covering the lion's share, but there will be a presentation later on, I would guess in the next couple months, here to address what the plan is, well, not necessarily what the plan is, but the cost of developing the plan and figuring out who are going to be the different resource providers to address homelessness. So those are the first 2. Unlike my colleagues, I actually really wanted to go to the National League of Cities. I'm back on the Community and Economic Development National Committee or Advocacy Group, and thank you, David, for helping me get on there, even after I missed the deadline to turn in my resume. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I have deferred my South by Southwest credentials for the last 2 years. So David probably knows this, there was a huge contingency that had planned to go to Austin in 2020. I was one of them. And so I actually used my credential from 2 years ago to go last week to Austin to South by Southwest for the community. It's now, instead of the government track, it is now the community engagement track. It was good. I will say some of the takeaways that I had. One was there was it was called Cracking the Housing Affordability Problem in the United States. And surprisingly, and I've never seen this, and David, you can nod your head if you're in agreement, I saw Henry Cisneros, who was the former HUD secretary, actually moderate the panel. So he's the guy that introed everybody, asked all the questions, and he shared his own things too. But I have never seen a U.S. secretary, department secretary, sit down with 4 other people, and he was the one doing most of the talking and asking the questions and asking people about their bios and everything. But the stat that I took away from that meeting that really stuck with me, I know we're going to talk about some large housing development just in the city tonight. The median homeowner in the United States has 40 times the net wealth of the median renter in the United States. And if you take that number and then you compare by race homeownership rates between white and Asian Americans and compare that to Black and Hispanic Americans, it's basically 25 to 30% less. And so if you just look at where our policies over the last 100 years, let's say, whether it's redlining or a lot of other things that are still causing wealth inequality throughout our country, it really comes down to who can become a homeowner in this country. Even if you bought right before the Great Recession and your home lost value, in the last 50 years, almost the average American, if they have a net wealth, it's because they own a home. And figuring out ways to crack that, it was really what that conversation was about. But to walk out of there, and I'm everybody knows here at least, my day job is in affordable housing and banking and doing this kind of stuff, and a large amount of time spent on home ownership. But I had never heard that stat before. And again, the median homeowner has 40 times the wealth of the median renter. And imagine what that means if you're making $200,000 and living in the Bay Area and renting a home still. Doesn't necessarily matter how much money you make if you're paying it all to your landlord. So that was one discussion. There was another really great discussion about the future of the workforce, and Secretary Walsh, so our labor secretary, was the speaker for that at South by, and it was very, very impressive and a little nerve-wracking to think about the challenges that we have in the workforce right now. And it sounds like a lot of it could be worked out in a couple of years, but in a couple of years, we will have lost a lot of productivity in this country. There's also a really great study and presentation around COVID response in Chicago, and how when they got their first sets of stimulus funds and response funds from the federal government, and a lot of the philanthropic foundations decided to invest more than they would have normally in a given year because of COVID. But they actually did it through the lens of equity and race. And they actually went in and looked at where were their funds going to be most effective and what nonprofits in Black and brown communities within Chicago. And then they actually showed that their kind of first 6 months approach and then the last 18 months, and the impact was far greater when they made sure that they targeted not just to who are the best providers, but making sure that they're targeting into the best providers into the most needy and economically challenged communities. And I can share that. There was also somebody actually in the audience from the Pew Institute, that said that they were going to send out some additional information to the attendees. So then I got home for a day and a half from South by, and then headed out to the local government commission's conference for the first time. The first time they've held that in 2 years. And that was a fantastic conference. Their new name, if anybody doesn't know, is called CivicWell. And also for those who don't know, Kate, blanking on her last name, it's not Meese anymore, but Kate, their executive director, her final day was this past Sunday. She left CivicWell to go run Climate Mayors, which is actually something that launched at the U.S. Conference of Mayors the last time I was mayor in Miami at the U.S. Conference, or the U.S. Conference of Mayors Conference. And so I guess they got enough funding together to have an executive director finally. But it's an association of, I believe, 200 mayors from across the country that was really formed when President Trump withdrew from the Paris Accord, and a bunch of mayors across the country decided that their cities were going to commit to staying in it. And that's really where this organization came from. But looks like Civic Well is going to be looking for an executive director. Some of the takeaways I had there, I think one, that we were just talking about this right before the meeting, and I'm going to ask a question, and we kind of talked about it here, but does anybody know what the wealthiest city was in 1950? No. Well, I already told you. So the answer is it was Detroit. And they were by far the richest city in this country. And they had 2 million residents at the time, which made them one of the largest cities in America. And today they have a population of 500,000 because their entire economy moved away because they could. And that was how this speaker at this conference kind of prefaced his conversations around housing and homelessness and just quality of life in California. And another thing that he shared was we pat ourselves on the back a lot here saying that we're the 6th largest economy in the world. But if you take, well, and let me put this in another way. For those of you who remember something going, or almost getting onto the ballot about splitting this state into 6 separate states. For those of you who don't know, that would have created the 2 wealthiest states in this country and the 2 poorest states in this country. Lumping California together and saying it's the 6th largest economy, if it didn't have the Bay Area and LA, it would be like 100th or something like that. Like it is not all of California. And where those really high-paying, good jobs are, they still can't afford to live there. And if you look at this economy, beyond just being the 6th largest economy, we also have the highest inequality of any state in this country. And at some point, these employers could decide that this isn't a place where we can find employees or where we should have our employees. And again, we could be faced with the same thing that Detroit is facing, or faced in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, was this is a very expensive place to live, and there's other places that we can build these things for cheaper, and we're going to move them there. We haven't been faced with that yet, but the conversations that we had over the weekend are if we don't start to address these things, and one of them is building 2.5 million homes every year for all income levels in California. And if we don't do that, homelessness is going to continue to increase. Our quality of life is going to continue to decrease. And let me see here. A couple other things from that conference that I thought were really fascinating. They had a conversation about connectivity and fiber, and they were talking about how Bay Area communities that didn't regulate it and didn't figure out how to find a partner, that a bunch of I want to say it was Encinitas and Berkeley, both said that their roads are getting completely ripped up by fiber providers going in and laying their micro trench right over somebody else's without any permission or any kind of strategic thought at all of how they're going to implement it. And so when I stood up and said that we're working with Sci-Fi and Gigabit now, and they put $65 million into our community over the next 2 years, and literally I had council members not think I was telling the truth. Well, no, but how much did you pay to it? We didn't pay anything. So I had to run back to my hotel room and get my business cards because there are a lot of people that want to know how we pulled this off. The other interesting side conversation, I will say, don't buy battery walls for your home. I didn't realize that the technology exists today to run your house off of your EV. So when you get home at 5 o'clock, there's actually a way, I guess, to hook up your car to run your home. And that battery, the F-150 that everybody's been talking about, that's 4 Tesla battery walls. And it costs about $50,000, I guess, to buy that car. And 4 Tesla battery walls is $100,000. So something else I learned from all of the SMUD members that were sitting around me. That's pretty much it. I learned a lot. I have other things I could share at some point if anybody's interested, but that was just kind of the highlights of the last couple of weeks for me. With that, we will move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think most everything has already been mentioned, so I'll be very brief. I just wanted to also let you know that I was able to attend this International City Managers Conference for a few days, and homelessness and housing was the hot topic and the major topic. So, and ironically, I was served on a panel with the city manager of Encinitas, Pamela Antil, and we talked at length about the work we're doing with fiber optics. So it's an interesting coincidence.
One of their council members was fired up about this.
So I also wanted to give the council an update on the fire training center off of Zinfandel. You probably know that Sacramento Fire owns a facility that has an old dismantled Boeing, I think it's Boeing 747 on that site for training purposes. This was arranged through what they had a JPA with Cal OES and City of Sacramento Fire Department. That JPA is expiring and they're not going to renew it. But Sacramento Fire is very interested in continuing that operation and turn that into a statewide regional training facility. So they are applying for a significant grant from the state in the tune of about $45 million. They have requested a lot of support from us that we will certainly will provide, but just wanted to let you know that there is a new arrangement. And unfortunately, that 747 is also leaving that site, or has already partially left that site. There were some liability issues.
It's a 737.
Is it 730? So yeah, it's so there were some safety issues, some liability issues that they ended up removing it from the site, but they want to continue this as a statewide regional training facility. And last item I wanted to share with the council is with the community that on tonight's council we have a resolution to condemn the war on Ukraine and the aggression against Ukraine. We plan on presenting this resolution to some representatives of the Ukrainian community on Saturday, April 9th. There is an event at KP Market, and I hope that the council could attend, as well as I know we would have some numbers of the community members that would be at that event. So just wanted to give you a heads up that on Saturday, April 9th, there will be a presentation of that resolution to the community, Ukrainian community. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. Donald, I have one
Go ahead.
item. I forgot to ask that we adjourn tonight in the memory of one of the gentlemen at the Moose, who was just one of the nicest, kindest, sweetest men I have ever met. What a great gentleman. His name is Gene Humphrey. He has a music background, a very deep music background. And he was an outstanding example of how one should not let a disability get them down. The man was practically blind, and yet it never stopped him from going places, from doing things, from sharing his musical ability and the ability to organize musical events for the Moose Lodge. And I would ask that we adjourn in his honor tonight.
We certainly will. Thank you, Linda. And I was just going to say, if anybody's not getting the theme here, besides the conferences and other things, there's lots of stuff to do at KP International, and we're doing lots of things over there. I don't even know if it's fair to call that a grocery store anymore. I think we need to call it a culinary destination / community center. I don't know. But boy, is that an asset in this community. So with that, we'll move on to consent calendar items. And consent calendar items consist of matters deemed routine and non-controversial by staff. Unless a member of the council wishes to pull an item for individual consideration, all items will be approved by one motion. Let's start with, do we have any public comments? I believe we do.
We have public comments for 9.14. Is there anyone in Zoom who has any additional public comments for items on the consent calendar? Mayor Terry, I don't see any additional hands raised.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve 9.1 to 9.13 unless council members, do you have anything to pull?
I would just like to comment briefly. The Ukrainian resolution is in there, resolution of support. For
David, do you
the
want to
people of
pull that?
Ukraine.
You want to pull that, then we can have that as a discussion item?
We can do that.
Okay, so that's item, hang on.
9.1.
Thank you. I started from the bottom.
9.2, right? No?
2.
9.2.
2. Yep. Okay,
So I will move approval of items 9.1, and then 9.3 through 9.14.
through 9.13. I just want to make sure that we got this right. So we have a motion for 9.1 and 9.3 through 9.13, correct?
No, 14.
9.1.
No, 14's being pulled as well.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah,
You just said there was a comment.
correct. So we're pulling that one so we can take the comment.
Okay.
Okay. So just restating, 9.1, 9.3 through 9.13. I have a motion by Budge, a second by Pulapati. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Councilmember Sander,
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Budge,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye. Okay. Let's go ahead and take 9.2. And David, you had comments? Go ahead.
Sure. I just wanted to say thank staff for putting this together. I requested, I suspect many of my colleagues may have done the same, but we have such a large number of Ukrainian refugees and residents and now citizens living in Rancho Cordova. I thought it was really important. And when I was in DC and we had the National League of Cities board meeting, we had a live phone call with the mayor of Lviv, Ukraine, which is that large million-plus city in the west of Ukraine. And he had this quote I just wanted to share with you. And I shared this from the stage, so Siri's heard this before when I was emceeing a session. But he said, we're fighting now a war that you should be familiar with because you fought for your independence against a greater power. You fought for democracy. You fought for freedom. We're doing the exact same thing. So when you look at Ukraine, just think about your own war for independence and realize that's the same thing that we're undertaking now. And it just got me to choke up a little bit. But when we said that and when we showed that video to the meeting, there was actually some video also shown of that call to the general session. I have never heard a convention hall get as quiet as what I heard there. It was almost spooky in how moving and meaningful that is. So I just wanted to emphasize this Ukrainian resolution here is really important for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Thanks.
I would echo everything you just said, that the atrocities that are being carried out there are horrific. And it's amazing that in this day and age that we would see that kind of what literally looks like World War II, and it's going on right now. Fun fact, if anybody doesn't know, and I don't know why anybody would pick a fight with the mayor of Kiev, but if anybody doesn't know, that's the former boxing heavyweight champion Vitaly Klitschko is their mayor. So if anybody's seen him fight, him holding a gun makes me really, really nervous.
Yeah, he and his brother are both really famous.
Yeah. Amazing. Do we have any public comment on 9.2?
We do not. No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Gatewood,
Second.
second by Sander. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gatewood,
Aye.
Councilmember Sander,
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Budge,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye. Thank you, colleagues. So that will move on to 9.14, and we have a public comment, I believe.
We have a couple of public comments.
Okay.
The first public comments for item 9.14 were received via email. Those public comments have been distributed to the city council, are available in the back of the room, and are available on the city's website. The first written email public comment came from Ken Green. The second public comment came from Brenda Gustin. We also have a speaker card for Angel Ball, who is in the council chambers, and then I will go to Zoom.
Okay. And just to remind speakers, the only action being taken tonight is to continue this item to a future agenda. Angel, go ahead.
I wrote an email Friday to Darcy and Adam asking a couple of questions, and I'd like to read them aloud. Can you provide all the checks, steps, actions, staff work that's been done since February 22nd on this item? Basically explain what you've been doing the last 27 days. What additional conflict of interest work is or what is being done? Is there a report or a summary? Just passing this item without some sort of explanation of what has transpired over the last 27 days is not transparent. This is a public position with changing and adding guidelines. The public should be privileged to the process and the procedures. That ends my email. And Adam did respond and thank me for my email. I was just wondering if tonight we could hear what is going on as to why this is being continued. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'm going to move to Zoom. We have one hand raised, and that's Anil. Anil, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, this process is taking forever and this is really discouraging the applicants who applied on this one. I think the forces who really do not want to see the progress, they raise these concerns without any validity. And this is really, really discouraging. One public comment, and that public comment is also whoever raised, they did not represent in the council and they did not give enough details, and just throwing dirt at some people and say, okay, I'm just, criticizing or doing something, and then you prove you are innocent. This is not a good idea. If council wants to take this route, every agenda item that you bring, going forward, somebody will bring something like this. Are you trying to set a new precedence like this? As this has been going for a long time, we need to make a decision on these things. And people don't want, the council is really falling into the trap of those individuals or those forces who is trying to sabotage this process. I think you guys need to take a quick decisions, because you have all the data in front of you and all the forms are submitted. And I think this process cannot be dragged like this. I think if you guys have an intention of dragging this process like this, it's going to drop many more applicants. This is not encourageable. And again, this is setting up a new precedent. Any agenda items, anything, anybody can do like this one. And if this continues, your governing process is going to be delayed and delayed. We cannot make much decisions. Council, think about it and make the process efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commenters?
That's all the public comment
Okay.
that the clerk's office has.
So I'll, as the mayor, I'll go ahead and respond at least to, I guess, both of those comments. For those interested in understanding why we have delayed this and are continuing this beyond even tonight, you should go back and watch the last time we talked about this. In summary, I will say that one applicant who, at the time of making an allegation against another applicant, also withdrew from being an applicant and alleged a whole bunch of things against that applicant. And I believe now both of those applicants have now withdrawn from the process. Because of that incident and that situation, council, at the recommendation of the city attorney, paused the process and is conducting a full vetting of conflicts of interest and issues that these applicants may have in serving on the planning commission. That work is not finished. When it is, it will be made public. But until it is finished, it will not be made public. As far as the process taking longer and applicants being frustrated with how long it's taken, I can tell you I've been on this council now going on 10 years. I've been asking for a planning commission for 7 years. And if you want to be a planning commissioner, be patient, because that's what I've had to do for 7 years. And as much as I wanted this 7 years ago, it takes time. And we want to do it right, and we want to do it once. So for all of those that are frustrated it's taking long, sorry, but this is what happens when you are putting together a process for something that we have not had in this city for over a decade. And the last time we did this, it didn't end well. Let's just put it that way. So with that, I will entertain a motion to approve 9.14.
Second.
So moved.
So I have a motion by Gatewood, a second by Pulapati, I'll say that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pulapati.
Yes.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Yes.
Councilmember Sander.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Budge.
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye. 9.14 is agreed to. All right, moving on to consent public hearing items. Consent public hearing items consist of matters deemed routine and non-controversial by staff. Unless a member of the council wishes to pull an item for individual consideration, all items will be approved by one motion. And I know for a fact that Councilmember Gatewood and I both need to recuse ourselves from item 10.6. Are there any other items that we have a public comment or need to be polled on the calendar?
Item 10.1, the city clerk's office has public comment for.
Okay, do we just have a written public comment that needs to be read?
We also have a speaker card.
We have a speaker card, okay. So let's go ahead and poll 10.1 and 10.6.
Could I ask a question about 10.3?
How detailed to the point of us having to pull it?
Probably.
Okay, let's go ahead and pull 10.6.
I thought it said 10.3.
I'm sorry, I marked 10.3 and I'm looking at 10.6. So right now we got 10.1, 10.3, and 10.6 that need to be pulled.
Well, I will move approval of.
Actually, hang on, let me go ahead
Oh,
and,
wait a minute, read it.
hang
I
on.
got it, there's public comment.
no, first let me open the public hearing. We're going to not approve right now 10.1, 10.3, and 10.6, so I would entertain a motion for 10.2, 10.4, and 10.5, if we have no other comments.
Correct.
I will move that we find that the environmental documentation is adequate, appropriate, and that we approve 10.2, 10.4, and 10.5.
Okay, so let me close the public hearing on those items. This is gonna get confusing. Roll call, please.
We have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard that. Second, Pulapati.
Thank you. Councilmember Pulapati.
Yes.
Councilmember Sander.
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Budge.
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye. Okay. Hang on. I got to change my notes on here so I know what the heck I'm doing. Okay. 10.1, we'll go ahead and take that first, and we'll open the public hearing. And we have public comment?
Yes, the first public comment that we received was via email that came from Faiza Mughal. We also have a speaker card from Faiza as well, and she is in the room, so she'll come forward. And you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak, and I do not see any hands that are raised in Zoom for this item.
Again, we're on 10.1.
Hello, I'm Faiza Mughal from Lincoln Village. I submitted a written comment, and I just wanted to give some highlights about the comment. This is regarding the performance evaluation for the Community Development Block Grant. On page 1, it looks like the budget for this money.
Hold
Yes.
on 1 second, I'm pulling it up. Give me 1 second. Okay, and go.
Looks like on page 1, by the way, I call this poor people money, and I don't mean that as an insult, but it is intended to go to target communities that are most in need and identified special groups. So out of a $600K budget, about $100K is going towards code enforcement, and I think that's wrong. I do feel like rental inspections, even though they're being done in the target populations, are part of the day-to-day routine performance of code enforcement, and I think the onus on that should be on the city. So you can use Measure R or general fund monies to pay for code enforcement staff to perform routine duties instead of raiding the coffers of people in need. Page 9, it looks like out of the demographics being served, you have a disproportionate amount of white folks. And when we're looking at the populations that are most in extreme need in Rancho Cordova, that's not an accurate representation. So that leads me to believe that we are not adequately performing outreach or not in an effective way. There is a thing called affirmative marketing, and I would like our staff to look into using that moving forward so that we can tap into, identify, and serve properly and efficiently our most in-need populations. I think that groups that we pay money to, for example, the Folsom Cordova Community Partnership, the boards don't often reflect the communities that they are supposed to serve. And I think that creates problems, for example, with a lack of affirmative marketing, a lack of cultural competence to reach the communities that are intended to be reached. I believe the city of Rancho Cordova can implicitly and explicitly encourage diverse representation in leadership roles by modeling it within their own departments and building partnerships with groups that already meet this type of threshold. Some of the money that goes to FCCP for youth programming, when it's advertised in the community, it says for Cordova High students only. And I do have a problem with that because I'm repping Lincoln Village. We have kids in need. Some of our population falls in your target demographic. We have youth in your target demographic, and they're excluded from programmings. And some of this programming that I'm referring to involves job opportunities for youth, paid opportunities. And so I don't think that your school of enrollment should exclude you from participating in grant-funded programming for people in need, if you're a person in need.
Your time is up.
One more comment, I'm going to wrap it up. On page 20, it mentions that the SHRA housing isn't really necessarily included in things, and I believe that just because you live in subsidized housing, if you're in city limits, you're still a Rancho Cordova resident, and we should affirmatively market to that demographic as well, because if we don't all succeed together, we're going nowhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Faiza. I'd be really interested if you have any examples of marketing that's only going to Cordova High students for any of our programs, including, if you want to send that to me, I'd love to address it because just about every time we've ever authorized anything for youth, I've always made the pitch as a former Sac City School Board member that represented that neighborhood, and I live in Elk Grove Unified now. That's, send it to me. And I would also tell you, I have the same beef about the code enforcement stuff. But I've been saying that for a while. Is that the only commentary that we have?
Yes.
Okay. Let me close the public hearing. And do we have a motion to approve 10.1?
I see Conrad's hand up.
I did, and I apologize.
Oh.
But I would like to squeak a comment in real quick.
Come on up. Make sure to give Stacy that card when you're done.
Oh, sorry.
No, you can do it when you're done. It's okay.
Thank you.
I was in the back of the room, and I was just kind of caught surprisingly by the comments mentioned earlier about CDBG money being poor people's money. It kind of hit me kind of hard. I lived in Cordova Villa, and Highway 50 split ourselves and White Rock. And the first thing the city did when we became a city was use part of that CDBG money to provide a park-like setting for our elementary school that did not have a park because of the split of Highway 50. So, a little offended by the poor people comment, poor people money comment, but I also wanted to say thank you for recognizing our community that went without. And then our first mayor, Dave Roberts, who said, got got to see you and know you and hear you before the city can do something in giving to you. So I would actively say to anybody that's applying for CDBG money to keep applying. I got it, and I'm not a grant writer. So thank you.
Thanks, Conrad. I would say, and my colleagues have heard me say this before, I'm not a big fan of the code enforcement funding in there, but they are doing health and welfare work in, in some of our neediest communities. So I get the staff's reasoning behind it. I've never been a big fan of it personally. But I also would say that in the grand scheme of things, we are much more of a bootstrap community than a lot of places around here. If you look at Measure R and Measure H and the impact that we're making in the grants, our CBG funding is a teeny tiny budget these days. And it used to be a big deal, I think, in our budget. But in general, even as an entitlement city, we get our money before the state gets their cut of it. This still isn't where we make the big impact. So I'm a little bit less concerned, but I do get the comments. So with that, I will close the public comment hearing again.
Can I make a quick?
Yeah, go ahead. I just closed the public hearing. We can still talk amongst ourselves. Go ahead, Siri.
So I was just going to comment on the fact that the city of Rancho Cordova can implicitly and explicitly encourage diverse representation leadership roles. This is a huge thing. I mean, you see Councilmember Garrett and I who've stepped up to represent our communities. In the field of STEM, we actually have spots that we open up for diversity and inclusion, but it's really hard when we go out there and there's not so many people that want to step up and take that seat. So I think this is something that works both ways, where we as a city are absolutely trying to get more diverse and approach more people, but we need more people from the community to step up as well. So this is a two-way street.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Budge?
Yeah, my comment, and I appreciate Conrad's point. We got more CDBG money when we first incorporated because, quite frankly, the economic level in Rancho Cordova was lower at that point in time. And it's based on the number of low-income census tracts. And so as your economy improves in your community, then the federal government has set this up so that the amount of money you get through CDBG decreases. And as you pointed out, we are definitely, we started, if I remember correctly, I think that first year we got
That sounds about right.
7,000. And then the other thing, every time I've ever been over to the Folsom Cordova Partnership, they are serving a huge number of people, whether it was the old office on Rockingham or office currently on Coloma Road. They were serving a huge number of people from the Slavic community. And it is not a local thing that those people have been put into the general demographic category of white. You know, they come from different countries. They are very needy. Many of them have significant needs. Many of the ladies and the gentlemen have learned to speak English through the partnership and shared community and been provided a variety of other services. But the federal government considers them white. So you can't paint with a broad brush and assume that that's the wrong population being served. So I would move approval of item 10.1 if we didn't get a motion already.
We did not have a motion yet. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we did. I'm sorry. We have a motion from Gatewood, a second by Pulapati.
Great.
That's right, because I was rushing to hit the gavel again. So if there are no more comments. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Yep.
Councilmember Pulapati.
Yes.
Councilmember Sander.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Budge.
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye. Thank you, colleagues. All right, we'll move on to 10.3. I'll open the public hearing, ask if we have any public comments. We passed 10.2. We're on to 10.3. Nobody confuse me. Do we have any public comment on
The
this
city
one?
clerk's office does not have any speaker cards or emails for this, and I do not see any hands that are raised in Zoom.
Okay, so David, I'll take your comment in just a sec. I'm going to close the public hearing. David, do you have a comment?
So this is for the Goddard School that has an application into the city to construct a new school. I guess it's more daycare, but you could call it a school. I think from age 0 to 6 months, if I understand their operations properly. It's right on Zinfandel. It's very near the intersection of the bike trail that goes around Stone Creek neighborhood and Zinfandel Drive. But in the materials that I got, I could not tell what the nature of that connection was. And it appeared to me that they had blocked themselves off from having like a sidewalk connection on that side. So Darcy, if you're going to respond to this, or Nick, whoever's going to take this up, is there a good connection between that school site and that trail that wraps around Stone Creek? Because it would be a real shame to block that off when that alternative route of transportation is so in particular available to them.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Nick Sosa, Associate Planner. I also have applicants from the Goddard School available for questions as well. Andy Heineman, Jacob Glaze, and Jason Voorhees. For the trail that we have along Stone Creek, there is not a direct connection to the school. However, it does connect to the sidewalk on Zinfandel that then connects to the school. If you'd like, I could pull up that exhibit that I sent you, if that would be helpful for you.
Sure, if it's more legible than what was emailed to me, that would be great.
Nick, as you're doing that though, would you look at the parking lot, the overflow parking lot for Blue Shield? Because they have a connection to the bike trail, and the parking lot for Blue Shield and the parking lot for the Goddard School connect.
Yes, I could pull up that example as well.
And for context, I guess we could tell people their senior living is on the southwest side of this proposed site. Yes. West side, if you want to say that. This parking lot for Blue Shield is to the north. Sunrise is to the, Zinfandel is to the east. And we don't know what is to the south.
Yeah. But see, it's really only about 25 or 30 feet between this
very
site
short
and
distance.
the bike trail.
There is a driveway there, but it's a very short distance.
It's on the sidewalk.
Yes. So the bike trail will connects to Zinfandel Drive, and then there's a brief sidewalk across the entrance there, and Goddard will be at that entrance as well.
So as long as their plan accommodates easy pedestrian access, that's what I couldn't determine. It looked like they had a fence along Zinfandel.
Okay. So let's
like fencing off the sidewalk from their parcel.
So this is the landscape plan that was provided for Goddard. The pedestrian entrance is right there to the top. It kind of zigzags. That's actually a walkway. I think it's hard to tell a little bit on there.
Can you use your cursor so that on the screen, is that it? Are you on a laptop? No?
No.
Well, it doesn't
Oh,
show
for a
up
second.
it doesn't show up on the Zoom screen anymore.
So this would
there
be
it goes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so this would be the pedestrian connection here to the sidewalk.
And remember, David, that we now have a signal light there. So people from the east side of Zinfandel could either take the intersection at Bear Hollow, or they could come down the North Bike Trail and cross over.
So wait, go back.
So I was gonna
So
pull-
to David's question on that schematic, where's the fencing up along the street gonna be?
So the fencing along the street would be here and then goes all the way around the back for security for the playground area.
So all that foliage and greenage and everything between there and the sidewalk
Yes.
will be in between the sidewalk and the fence?
Yes. And perhaps Andy could speak a little bit further on how that connection would work if he's available. There you go.
Oh, so can we move Andrew Hinman into
Yes.
the room? Give us 1 sec.
This is just a very poor graphical representation.
But essentially, David, what I'm taking from that is there's a buffer, I don't know how many feet that is, so the fence isn't on the side, or isn't up against the sidewalk. There's greenery and looks like planter spaces in between there, right?
Good evening. My name's Andrew Hinman. I represent Wissy Holding, Bill Pooh, the owner of the Goddard School. I wanted to thank City Council for hearing us tonight and thank the staff for working on us. Regarding the pedestrian access, I don't know if anybody realizes we have quite a bit of grade change. So if you're heading, just which is, I guess it's south of our entrance, we have an ADA walkway, and it has to do a little switchback so that we can maintain the grade. So right where, I guess, is that Nick that has your, can you see my cursor?
No, this is my cursor,
Okay,
Andy.
Okay, yeah. Well, right there is our ADA pedestrian walkway that connects to the front of the school. The fencing is, we're well back from the right-of-way there. So we do have a wide walkway across the front that is meant for, emergency access. On that side, right where Nick's cursor is where we would bring cribs out in an emergency. So I will say that, we do not have a lot of pedestrians coming to our location. Parents and even the staff all drive. But we like to be pedestrian friendly, and I think we have access here.
And David, he has a good point, because you're going down from the elevation at Zinfandel and International, actually, really where the bike trail crosses Zinfandel. There is a significant drop down to the intersection with Bear Hollow.
There is. I'm still looking at this graphic and I see the switchback. I don't see the switchback actually connecting to the sidewalk, and I don't see the switchback connecting to the sidewalk on the street. It appears there's plantings blocking both of those. So
that's probably just
like where the cursor is right there. I don't know what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, it shows better on the art. Do you have the architectural site plan, Nick, in your proposal?
And then at the other end of that path, I see there's a large tree, and then there's a lot of low plantings. I see no sidewalk connection. So that was my source of confusion. I was trying to guess, where is the fence? I see a little E over there. I was assuming the fence was running right all the way through that side, because it was described in the report that you had a fence, but I can't tell from this where the fence is.
And there's somebody else as a presenter, Jason, that we've already moved in. Jason, I see you keep raising your hand. Did you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, this is Jason with PwC Architects.
Okay.
I might be able to clarify some of the questions.
Go ahead.
So the fence is approximately 6 foot off the building, and then there's 2 rows of small plants that are between the fence and the road. So that's where the fence line is. With respect to the sidewalk, it does make that U shape, as you've been highlighting there, Nick. And when it right there, it hits the sidewalk. The sidewalk is depicted with that small like dot pattern just above your cursor. That's a 6 foot wide public sidewalk that's existing. And then the blank area between that dot pattern and the next dot pattern up on the page, that's the separated landscape median. And the other dot pattern is the curb and gutter along Zinfandel Road. So our sidewalk does connect to the public sidewalk, and it comes down through that zigzag. And then that last tree right there where to the left here, right there, it connects to our sidewalk in front of our building, just to the right of your cursor.
That's the side.
Yeah, right in there. The landscaping is kind of obscuring the connection, but it's like 5 foot wide, and it's concrete, and it all has to be accessible. So that's why we have all the zigzag up and down the hill there.
Okay, good. And the we saw before an aerial that showed the parking lot to the north, and they have made some connections to the bike trail that runs to the parking lot. Do any of those line up with your other entrance?
Well, they don't, because we don't control that parcel. So
I understand, but
yeah.
is your parcel designed to accommodate that connection anyway? It looks like it's gonna be to your,
it comes in right at the southwest
Yeah.
corner of our parcel. We do not have a direct connection there, no. But
all right,
we could potentially entertain something like that.
because people will take the shortest route. If
Sure.
I'm bringing my kid to your facility and he's on the back of my bike,
Yeah.
I'm likely to do that route as opposed to, go up to the street and come back.
Yeah, Nick, if you could go back to the landscape plan there, I can kind of highlight where that comes in. At the bottom left corner of our site, there's
Yeah,
a
there it
tree
is.
in the corner, and that connection is just to the south of us. So it's kind of off our site, a little bit too far to the west. But we could, we have a very small strip of landscaping between our drive aisle and the parcel line. We could open that up potentially to allow access through there.
So if a walker came that direction, someone walking, they'd walk through your driveway, basically go diagonal through the parking towards the front doors.
Yeah, they'd be going through the neighboring site's drive aisle, and then they'd step over our landscape. But we could potentially open that up.
So yeah, I would just urge you to consider, people will take the shortest route. And those are the 2 points I would think of access. All right, thank you for the clarity.
Thank you.
And staff, I think we just need a little better diagram in a case like this.
But I will say, this will, I think, be a welcomed addition into the business park. I can only imagine the number of employees as they start to return to work that would love to be able to drop their kids off and have a walkable place to drop them off for where they work.
Is the intent to operate both? Do we know?
No.
Okay. So
What was the question, David?
There's an existing one next to Navigator. I was wondering if they were relocating here or if they were opening a second.
They're going to
relocating.
be relocating, yeah.
Okay.
They just need larger space. And actually, what the staff report says is 6 months to 6 years.
Wow.
6 months, okay.
6 months to 6 years
Thank you.
to finish moving?
No, I think she means for the age.
No.
Ages of the kids.
Oh, the ages of the kids.
Yeah, for
Like
the
it's going to
age of
take
the
them
kids.
6 months to 6 years. Jeez. We're not issuing
I'll move the
permits,
item.
right? Yeah.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Sander, a second by Budge. Roll call, please.
Did we take public comment?
Yeah, and I've already closed the public hearing.
Thank you. Councilmember Gatewood,
Yes.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Councilmember Sander,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Budge,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we passed 10.3 and 10.1. So we passed everything but 10.6. At this point, Councilmember Gatewood and I will need to recuse ourselves. Linda, you'll be able to run the meeting for now and let us know when we get to come back.
Yep. Bye-bye. We'll give them a minute. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay. Stacy, you want to call item 10.6?
Yes, 10.6 is the Dutch Bros Coffee Conditional Use Permit and Minor Design Review, project number PLND 10210013, located at the southeast corner of Sunrise Boulevard and Douglas Road in Anatolia Marketplace.
Thank you. So we'll open the public hearing and ask if we have any public comment on this item.
The city clerk's office has not received any public comment for this item, and I do not see any hands that are raised in Zoom.
Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. This should be like the excitement that surrounded Starbucks when it opened at Rayleigh's.
We will be getting a lot of public comment about it
Don't you know?
when it opens. As everybody, or I'll say, enormous number of people want Dutch Brothers.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
So I'll move approval.
and I second.
Yeah, okay. So did we get a first?
Sander.
Okay. Okay. Motion by David, second by Siri. Stacy, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sander.
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati.
Yes.
Councilmember Gatewood has recused himself. Mayor Terry has also recused himself. Vice Mayor Budge.
I will vote yes with the note that we find that this project, the environmental review is adequate and appropriate. Okay?
I'd
good.
like to add that, I am so happy to be part of the approval of the conditional use permit because the last time, people were up in arms when we couldn't approve it. And I said the youth of the city will be really mad at me. And somebody remembered that statement and even told me a couple of weeks ago. So please, youth of the city, we are now approving the conditional use permit. So.
Here, here. I agree with you. Sherry, you are so right. This is such a much better location than the original proposal. So, okay, thank you all. We should call back Donald and Garrett. Thank you, Nick.
Sirs.
Where'd you go? There's a.
Do we have the mayor?
We do. I just had to go find my city manager who went looking for me. There's a TV in the other room, so we can see it. When we recuse ourselves at home and we actually sign out of Zoom, we got to wait to get all the way back in. But yeah, we saw it. Okay. So with that, we will move on to public hearing items. And we have one public hearing item tonight. Item 11.1, Project Sunrise Major Design Review and Rio del Oro Phase 5 Final Map. And who we start with? Albert?
Good evening, Mayor Terry, members of the council.
That's what I was going to
Darcy
say.
Lowe,
My
Department.
stuff says Darcy, but Albert started walking up here. Go ahead, Darcy.
Yes, I am joined by Albert Stricker, Public Works Director this evening, as well as Todd Chandler and Steve Beauchamp from Panatone. So we're going to do a joint presentation on the project this evening. Next slide, please.
Darcy, you mentioned Todd Chandler, and who was the second?
Steve Beauchamp, they should be there in the chambers.
Perfect. Thank you. I see them.
Perfect. Next slide, please, Persephone. Thank you. So the request this evening is the Rio del Oro Phase 5 Final Map, as well as a major design review for 629 plus or minus 1,000 square feet of a single-story warehouse distribution building, which includes 47,500 or so square feet of office, 132 dock doors, and various parking, not just for employees, but for the trucks that come in and out, as well as landscaping and site improvements. And next slide, and I will turn that one over to Albert Stricker.
Thank you, Darcy. Albert Stricker with the Public Works Department. Good evening, Mayor Terry and members of the council. One of the recommended motions of approval for this project is approval of the Phase 5 final map that includes 289 acres and it creates 17 lots. It includes frontage along International and Rancho Cordova Parkway and will also connect Rancho Cordova Parkway to Gold Dredge. Lot C was inadvertently noted on the map submitted as an attachment to the council package as to be granted to the Cordova Recreation and Park District. And we recommend that council direct staff to revise that to be retained by Elliott Homes on the map prior to recordation. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Darcy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next slide. So we're going to switch gears to the actual Project Sunrise. Overall context that you see before you on the map is the Rio del Oro specific plan land use map. This project is highlighted, it's got a red squiggly around it, and it is known as Parcel 71. It is about 83 acres in size, zoned MP Industrial Office Park. The use that is proposed for the site is a permitted by right use within the specific plan. So as you can see on the map, This parcel is along the western portion of the specific plan. To the north, we have some BP zoned parcels. North of that, which I'm going to show you on the next slide, the developments surrounding that have already been approved, is single family residential. To the east, we have retail. To the south, we have some more industrial. And then to the west is our existing industrial park area. Next slide, please. So on this specific slide here, we're just going to highlight a couple of the approved projects in the area. So as council may recall, we have parcel 67, which is 444 single family lots under construction currently out at Rio del Oro. We've approved parcel 66, which is 132 single family lots. And then late last year or mid last year, we approved the Rio del Oro delivery station, which was 181,000 square feet of warehouse. In terms of overall just connectivity throughout the plan, the project site is labeled with a star on the exhibit in front of you. As you can see to the western boundary of Rio del Oro, we have a greenbelt area. It will hug all the way that western boundary up and down. Additionally, which the applicant team will show you on a future slide, the pedestrian connectivity from the site out to the major roadways. But the surrounding projects that have already been approved, the residential projects as well as the delivery station, have all provided pedestrian connectivity out to the major roadways, which then ultimately would connect up to these greenbelt areas. Additionally, future developments that happen to come in will be required to provide that same level of pedestrian connectivity to get folks from the site out to the roadways and into those greenbelt areas, as well as over to the community park that's within the specific plan area. Next slide, please. And with that, I will turn it over to the Panattoni team to go ahead and present the next few slides.
All right, thank you, Darcy. Mayor, council members, appreciate your time this evening. So Project Sunrise, as Darcy said, is a 629,000 square foot building approximately located on 83 acres, parcel 71 of Rio del Oro. With that, there are approximately 1,000 vehicle parking spots on what would be Plan Right or the east side of the site, and around 700 trailer parking stalls around the building and the west side of the site. There are 132 dock door locations in the building. The building's approximately 50 feet in height, and it's going to be the intended use as a warehouse distribution facility. So interconnect to the roadways, as Darcy was mentioning, it's not great to see on this plan, but when we switch to the landscaping plan, I could point out where those locations are based at. Along the north side of the truck court area, so top of page, there's kind of a straight line across. There will be a sound wall installed along with fencing around the entire truck court area for security and safety purposes. And the sound wall is to help kind of protect noise going out towards the residential area to the north. Next slide, please. So this is the overall landscaping plan. As I mentioned, the sidewalks connect to the outlying streets. The 3 red dots shown on here are kind of the main highlights. You have one on Goldridge Way to the south, one on Rancho Cordova Parkway to the east, and one International to the north. Those are kind of the best locations laid out for direct pedestrian access coming from the building or to the building from the associated streets. No interconnection through the truck court area around the west side of the building, basically because it's a secure area. So there's a fence around the entire perimeter to keep pedestrians out. Looks like a lot of trees on here. There's roughly 900 new trees being planted as part of this development. So basically kind of a dual row around the entire perimeter to help screening and kind of soften the facade of the building, along with quite a few through the parking lot to meet shading requirements. Next slide, please. These are 3 different views of the 4 different elevations of the building. So there's paint, reveals, varying roof elevations to kind of break up the building and make sure it's a long, pretty big building to kind of keep those broken up, different pop-outs and reveals along the way. Not much else to say there unless there's any questions. Next slide, please. And this is a view from International Drive, right where Sarapiki Way will tie in. Looking at this, the way it shows, the top view is when there's no trees planted, basically just for a representative view. The middle view is roughly with 5 years or so of tree growth, and the bottom view is 10 years of tree growth. And one thing to point out from this view, you can see the sound wall there just to the right of the driveway. That tank was originally planned. We were going to have a fire tank, but that has since been removed as part of the design, so that tank will not show up.
Thank you to staff or whoever thought to show us without trees, 5 years and a 10-year view, and actually help us understand what it's gonna look like when we approve it and what it might look like.
Thank Darcy for pointing us in the right direction
Yeah,
there.
thank you.
All right, next slide,
Much
please.
Could you
appreciated.
repeat the last part? Did you say that? What would not be?
You see the concrete wall has a 90-degree corner just to the right of the driveway.
Yeah.
The cylinder kind of poking out from that will not be there.
Right. So the very same staff could have removed that as well.
They could
Sure.
have, one of our big beefs
No,
over the
thank you.
years, yeah, one of our big beefs over the years, if you're going down Sunrise, there is it's not pick and pull, but it's like that, and they gave us renderings that showed trees, and I guess most of us assumed they were gonna put those trees there, and then they put like 5-foot trees there instead of the 40-foot trees that they used to block the stacks that were gonna be there, and all of us felt like we got duped, so I appreciate this, because many of us have asked for exactly this.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
Next slide, please. All right, and this is a similar view from Rancho Cordova Parkway, kind of the main northernmost entrance on Rancho Cordova Parkway. Same deal, no trees on the top, roughly 5 years of growth in the middle, and 10-year kind of full growth from the trees from there. So next slide, please. That's it for me.
Great, thank you, Todd. And with that, we have 3 recommended motions on the screen for council to consider. First being adoption of the resolution for the Rio del Oro Phase 5 final map, with that modification that Albert did highlight in his presentation. Next, finding the project exempt from CEQA pursuant to a previous EIR that was provided for certified for Rio del Oro. And then the last motion would be adopting the resolution for the actual Project Sunrise Major Design Review. With that, that concludes our presentation, and we're available for questions.
Okay, so let's first open the public hearing. Do we have any public comment on this item?
The city clerk's office has not received any public comment for this item, and I do not see any hands that are raised in Zoom.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions for staff?
Yeah, the only thing I had is the
Okay. Go ahead, Siri.
gazillion trees that they're planting. Are they, with the allergy season that we have, and kind of choose trees or plants that are, not flowering and not changing with the season? That's the only comment I had.
Does Public Works or our resident tree guru back there want to answer that at all?
Darcy, do you want to start, or would you like me to address it?
I can address it. We do have an approved tree list that applicants have to follow for the state plan. So we can certainly take a look at that and see if we have anything on their list that's flowering that could cause allergies and maybe swap those out. I think that's an easy thing that we can handle through the improvement plan phase.
As someone that's had issues with trees, I would say take ornamental pear off of your list. They're dying and falling a lot on my street. Linda, you had a question?
Just a quick question. Do we assume this is a 24/7 operation?
Did the applicant want to? It's on TV and recorded. We got to hear you on the mic.
Yes, it is, 24 hours, 7 days.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Go ahead, David.
Do we have any idea what the noise is going to be like from this facility? We have housing on, 2 sides, essentially, eventually. And having lived, in Stone Creek for a while, the recycling yards that were adjacent and across the canal had forklifts that would have to beep every time they went in reverse. And so on the east side of Stone Creek, you have sort of this constant, in some cases, 24 hours a day, beep, 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 beep sound. This is a massive facility.
It's massive.
I'm curious about the sort of the noise impacts to the neighbors.
So I don't have the specific noise data. We did perform a noise study and completed, and I believe it was submitted to the city as part of our original package. So we can pull that information up. I don't have it in front of me at the moment. All operations will be inside of the building other than trucks coming in and out. And the truck entrance was moved. Originally, it was on the north side coming from International to come into the facility. As part of the noise study, we moved that entrance off of Gold Dredge Way, which has quite a bit more buffer to the residential area to the north. And then trucks will be exiting on Gold Dredge, coming out to the south, a little bit further east, And then the building sort of protects any sound from going east further from there with the trucks.
I think the
Can
concern
we
is when
switch
things
to
are
an
backing
overview
up.
of the?
Go ahead.
Could we switch to an overview of the site? I know people who live near rail yards, for example, get the constant like 24 hours a day clanging of, you know, truck hooking up, truck unhooking, or, you know, rail car getting pushed this way, pushed that way. I guess that's what I'm worried about. Are we going to devalue homes because of 24-hour noise coming from the site?
We have a pretty significant landscape buffer, as well as along that portion along International, there is a sound wall. And as Todd was saying, they redirected the truck traffic down to the southern portion of the property. So they did provide a noise study, which provides any additional suitable mitigation that they would have needed that wasn't already analyzed in the EIR. So that's where the sound wall comes into play, is to help with that additional noise buffer. So they will meet the requirements and will not exceed the general plan thresholds.
Well, colleagues, I have, I guess, multi-level concerns here. Sound is certainly one of them. I understand they've met sort of the requirements there under CEQA. I'm worried about view shed because this is such a massive structure. We kind of have one view into the building from Rancho Parkway. We have another view we were given from International, but often those are the most attractive views. I'm wondering what the least attractive view looks like. Where is this facility the ugliest, and what are we doing to sort of hide that? Because ideally, you could put a massive structure like this into this neighborhood. It's going to sort of take over a significant amount of space, going to dominate this particular neighborhood. If it was thoroughly hidden behind trees, right? And so if you're driving by, you just think, oh, look at all the nice trees, and you don't see 1,000 trucks or 1,000 trailers being stored there, or something like that. Otherwise, I'm worried that, you know, this is has the appearance of such a really almost like heavy industrial use. I'm wondering if we're devaluing the neighborhood by placing this here. So again, I think it can be mitigated by the appearance of it. Do we have? Are we sure we've maximized the view shed impacts? I mean, minimize the negative impact, maximize our shielding of the view.
David, can I maybe rephrase your question a little bit and to just understand?
Yeah, go for it.
So the entrance and the movement of the cars and price, I don't know if you want to come up. I'm looking at Gold Dredge Way, and I believe that's all going to be industrial, and that's where the majority of the sound is going to be coming from. It's not going to be adjacent to the homes. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Price Walker with Elliott Homes. Hopefully I can answer some of David's questions. Yeah, Gold Dredge is a new street, actually, that kind of separates out additional industrial uses from this project. And so if I was to take his question and say, where's the, I put it in air quotes, ugliest portion, it's probably either the one facing Gold Dredge or probably facing that even uglier stuff to the west of us. That's where all of those car places are and those industrial uses. So I think where it's placed on the site, David, is probably the best choice. And of course, we have the value of all of this land, and our homes are to the north of this, and so we certainly don't want to devalue anything. In addition, I think it's important to know that the way that what we call our phase one is laid out, this building will be built before the nearest homes are in, and those nearest homes are still another, gosh, I can't even, 1,000 feet from the structure. So I do think it's pretty well, I don't want to say buffered because you can't buffer 600,000 square feet, but I do want to say it's in a position that I think the home values will stay consistent.
So can I clarify? So you're saying to the north where International is, which is 3 lanes each way, the size of Sunrise.
Yes.
The homes are going to be 1,000 feet from that street.
Because the homes, well, a little less than that. I meant from the structure. Because you've got up to International, and then you've got some office parcels, and then you've got the houses.
And this is
So
all
there's
over the.
office to the
go ahead.
immediate north of International.
That's correct.
There's industrial to the immediate south of Gold Dredge.
Correct.
There's town center to the immediate, well, east in essence of the site, right to the right. Or to the southeast, I guess. No, this is north is skewed here. Sorry, that's what's throwing me off. So it is to the east. North is not to the top of those diagrams, it's to the upper right.
That's really down to the southeast, David.
Yeah, so the town center is to the
It's not,
immediate
and it's
east.
not actually the town center. It's the parcel that's got the 2 schools and the library on it.
I think this parcel is north of that.
Yeah, it is.
This parcel's not
On-
north of
on
any
the-
of that. Wait, oh no, we're talking about the one on the star, right?
Yes.
Figure 1.
Yeah, star parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, figure one's got the land uses on it.
Do we have I appreciate this overhead right here. Do we have an idea of, so we have a similar usage on parcel 63 here, this sort of catty corner across that intersection. Do we have an idea of how much truck traffic we're introducing into these 2 sites and how that will impact the neighborhood? Because I know we had a great deal of consternation about gravel, production to our east and how that cut through Rancho Cordova and the truck impact to our streets and congestion. Are these 2 warehouse operations going to add a massive amount of trucking that we're going to regret later?
The truck traffic will enter and exit from quite a bit different areas. On parcel 63, it's kind of the northeast, at least on this plan, roughly where parcel 25B, I think it is. That's kind of the entrance and exit for truck traffic for parcel 63. Parcel 71 is in that far southwest corner that will come through the existing Gold Dredge to Fitzgerald to Sunrise out the west. So they'll intermix on Sunrise, moving north and south, but in this specific area, truck traffic's going to be kind of separate for both facilities.
Do we know how many trips a day are expected out of a facility like this one?
On 71, we don't have exact numbers, but it's estimates, I think, around 230 to 250 inbound and the same outbound in a 24-hour span, spread out.
A day?
Correct.
So about 1 every 6 minutes, something like that.
63 is vans too, right?
63, yes.
That's important.
Yeah, 63 is pretty limited on trucking. It's more vans coming in and out of there. I think there's only, I want to say 12 to 15 truck trips there per day on 63.
Any other questions for the applicant or staff, David?
Staff, do you think there's anything further we could do to landscape buffer the edges of this? I know we went into some great detail on 63, trying to, camouflage that building, hide that building, make sure we had evergreen, coverage around it, large trees. Anything more we can do here beyond what they've proposed?
We could, if we could go to the landscape plan, Persephone, please. Thank you. We could possibly look at some berming to make it a little bit higher so that the landscaping sits a little bit higher. I don't want to speak out of turn because we haven't really looked at that option, but that's a possibility.
Like along International, put the landscaping on top of a berm?
Right, we could look at, possibly berming that up a little bit. If there's enough room there to be able to do that, to put the landscaping of the trees a little bit higher, making sure that we have enough, width on that berm for it. That's a possibility. We are kind of limited in terms of easements and what trees we are allowed to put in that or kind of landscaping. So similar, if you recall on 63, there was an area where we had to put some landscaping further back because of a SMUD easement. We couldn't put trees in there, they had to use larger shrubs. So similar situation on this one as well, but we can, if council's interested in that, we could, probably modify a condition with the city attorney's input on taking a look at the landscape plan if there's room for berming.
Is there a solid wall around this truck trailer storage facility?
There is a masonry wall that's along the International side, and then there's fencing along the rest of it, internal fencing, yes.
So on the Gold Dredge Way, you would have view shed of all the trailers lined up and stored there?
You'll have fencing and with the landscaping in front of the fencing.
But south is more industrial. So the other side of
To the
Gold
south of-
Dredge is going to be
Yes,
some other industrial use, because that's in the flight path, right?
right. Yes, so that's a very good point, Mayor Terry, is that some of these parcels are within that overflight zone. So in terms of what uses can go there, that's why it was kind of laid out for our heavy industrial uses along this pathway with the BP, which is our more office, and then with our residential to the north of that. So
I know we hear from residents, Mayor Terry, like in your neighborhood, who are not happy with the view shed on Sunrise, you know, as they drive from their work or from Highway 50 to home. They don't like seeing the industrial uses. And I'm just looking at Gold Dredge thinking, somebody's going to live in such a place that that is the way home, or that's the way they direct people to their house. And are they going to want to see 1,000 trailers being stored on the way to their house, or would they rather see a wall and just not know what's beyond it?
Yeah, I get your point. Looking at, and again, my comment about the tree plans and visuals that they gave us here, I think are really helpful for us to understand what is it going to look like when this opens, what is it going to look like in 5 and 10 years. I guess my counter to that on Gold Dredge is, if you're choosing to go down Gold Dredge, you're choosing to go through that industrial park. Nobody can choose not to go down Sunrise to get to where to the south community, right? And to be frank, that industrial park was there long before any of those homes were there. In this case, they're both going to be, by the time you buy a house, for the closest ones, based on what I think I just heard Price say, this will already be there. So you're going to choose to live next to said thing. The other thing, just because I'm not sure exactly how that's being displayed here, can we go back to the parcel one? Because there was something that showed a green belt that I'm wondering, how is that? So this 107, starting up from the top left, it shows a whole green belt that's, well, I guess it wouldn't be depicted on that parcel map because it's actually above it. But if we're looking at the star where this large facility is, you also have industrial, and what is SWD?
stormwater drainage.
Stormwater drainage. So then you
Yeah,
have
the
so you have a whole drainage area over there and a green belt before you get near the homes. And this thing will be built, I'm guessing Elliott Homes is going to sell the homes closest to White Rock first, or at least to the north end of this. And what's that? That's correct. Yeah, and as your phasing goes, you're going to get to 67E. Yeah, kind of near the end, and these people will know what they're buying into, and choose whether or not they want to have it. I mean, and David, I'm not to discount your concern at all, but if I'm looking, all of the buffering, you either have industrial park up to the north, or you have a drainage area, and the trucks are as far away from that in this, pretty much more than anywhere else. They're the furthest away. I think staff's done what they could with this site, but. I mean, at some point, go ahead.
That's international. That's sort of, the wide street cutting across there.
Right.
I would assume lots of people like coming to events at that giant park or going to that town center or going home would choose to use international right there. That seems like, when we punch it through, would be a great connection. Can we shield the view shed across the water detention into this trailer storage area? I understand it's right up against international, it's buffered, but is there a wall that would block off the stormwater detention view from this trailer storage area?
Is there not a sound wall right there? Did I not understand that correctly?
No, not right there. But isn't it probable, if we ask Price to talk about their plans for the green belt, I believe that the green belt on the west side is 100 feet wide. And then it looks like the green belt on the south side that goes northeast is about 50 feet wide. And then we have the business professional. So Price could probably talk about the way in which the green belt in Stone Creek was designed with the natural vegetation so that you can hardly see the houses across the green belt.
Right.
And the fact that it's got bike trail down the middle of it, and it's probably designed just like the one at Stone Creek, so that you could think of the stormwater detention as being the Bear Hollow Reservoir, and then the green belts would be the course for the water to drain into the stormwater detention. And then you have the business professional before you ever get to international.
Linda, we have one of the staff here that wants to, or the applicant that wants to maybe address some of the comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, Steve Beauchamp with Panattoni, part of the applicant team. I think a couple things to highlight here, which Darcy was mentioning, was the Greenbelt buffer, the business park, plus the international, eventually a 6-lane road. In addition to that, the business park to the Greenbelt, as well as the residential, will have fencing. I believe it's a solid fence requirement between the business park and the residential. So there is going to be multiple layers of fencing with each development to separate those uses. And then if you go to the landscape plan, if you can, so something just a big picture here, you can see that we have a significant landscape buffer between International and the yard, and that was not unintentional, that was intentional to increase additional buffer to the north. And I think the other thing that it was mentioned about a berm or berming, there is a grade change out there between International and this site. And if you go back to the elevations, it actually somewhat captures that as you're looking from International. It's kind of an upward view towards the screen wall where you saw that fire water tank. So when you're on International, there is an elevation. So you won't be looking into the building, you won't be looking into the docks. You're going to have kind of maybe just the top portion of the building that you would see. So you're not going to see the yard of trailers from International being the higher commuted road from that standpoint. So there was a lot of strategy in this layout, and for buffering and for noise. Matter of fact, we, don't tell prices, but when we took a larger area of all the property and said, where does this land best to not to increase our buffers and be the best limited screening and visibility from the standpoint of roads. So we kind of took some liberty and pushed some roads and moved some things around to fit it best on the site. So there was a lot of strategy put into that. And like Todd said, I think it's what, 600 trees that we're planting, or 900 trees on the site. And keep in mind, we can usually put one of these facilities of this size on about 70 acres. This is 85 acres. Most of that's landscape. Our landscaping budget is about $1 million more on this project than a typical project. So we really feel like we've gone above and beyond on all those fronts. So I just want to give everybody a little backstory as to how we got where we're at. And it just wasn't put on this site 100% operationally or economically. It was, all those things were considered. Any questions related to that?
Any other questions for the applicant?
I appreciate those comments. My concern is just, 20 years from now, someone driving down International, they're thinking about buying a house in Rancho Cordova, and they look over and they're like, oh God, I don't want to live next to a trailer storage facility. That's not, home is not industrial. I want a nice neighborhood. So I want, landscaping that will never sort of betray what is there. I really want this project to work. And I just want to be sure that we do not damage ourselves 10, 20, 30 years from now by choosing to place it here.
David, I promise you we won't put a rendering plant near it.
So can I?
Is there a tank farm?
So can I go ahead and request that it's nothing but palm trees? Because
don't go there.
Oh, no. Besides, you don't get any trees from palm trees.
Listen, guys, if you want to win a project, you put palm trees in Rancho, because Rancho's known for its palm trees and its desert. You're welcome, Linda. I think I got enough votes for it.
Oh, geez. Do we have any other questions for the applicant or for staff on this?
Very excited about the project.
Ditto. And I would say, I appreciate, David, all of the comments that you made. Part of I think one of the, you articulated, I think, the concern about having these kinds of uses near neighborhoods in some ways. But at the same time, when you have the flight path that we have, it also ensures that we have these uses in our city, which there are a lot of other communities that just threw up houses and are struggling with trying to, sell their soul to get, employers and things like this to come to their city, because they use all of it for one use. Not to say that housing isn't needed. I hopefully everyone was listening to me earlier tonight, but, getting projects like this, part of it is because we have that flight path, and so we've had to dedicate this kind of use, in this area. So again, any other questions for staff? Do we have any public comment on this?
We do not have any public comment for this item.
Okay, and then Chief Luke, no, he didn't need to. Okay, good. All right, that was just a mistake. Got it. Okay, so we have three questions. Go ahead, David.
I'd move approval of the project, but ask staff to work with the applicant on additional screening efforts, sort of from a 360-degree perspective. If the berm is a usable option, that's great. Look at the view shed across that retaining area and look at the view shed from other streets. If there's additional tall trees or berms or solid walls instead of fences, they could screen it. That would be a nice addition to the project.
I'd like to second it.
Wait,
as
okay,
long as there's
wait,
only
wait,
palm
wait.
trees.
Wait, 1 second. So
Palm trees.
I've heard the motion. Let me close the public hearing. I will take the motion from Sander. I do not believe the motioner is going to accept the hostile second with a change to it. So do I have anybody else that wants to second?
Second.
Okay.
I will second as long as there are no palm trees.
Okay, so
Yeah, and I will second it with the note that we find that the environmental documentation is adequate and appropriate.
I love my colleagues, but I can only pick two of you. So it was motioned by Sander, it was second by Gatewood. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gatewood.
Aye.
Councilmember Sander.
Aye.
Councilmember Pulapati.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Budge.
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye.
As for the first project that's going to go into my brand new community, I'm very excited about seeing this come to fruition. And I'm very excited about the 1,000 homes that were promised to me by July. So just so we're clear, it's January, February, March. It's March. 1,000 homes by July were promised. Thank you.
The other thing I would just
going to be the first.
Go ahead.
Is this going to be the first large piece of construction in that neighborhood?
Yeah.
Second.
Do we think?
The second thing is what.
This will be the second one?
Yeah, the other one is under construction. Yeah.
Yeah.
63.
Okay.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I think the only thing I would remind my colleagues and our residents about is electric trucks are not, and I know this because at the expo for South by Southwest, they were premiering some of these electric trucks and other things like that. They don't make a lot of noise. For those of you who don't know, the Air District helped purchase a whole bunch of electric school buses, and they actually had to put speakers in the front of the buses, and they play music like an ice cream truck because the kids won't hear the school bus coming because there's no engine sound. And that's usually the thing that reminds kids to get out of the street and get out of the way of the school bus. And they actually had to recreate that for school buses. For these trucks, they're not going to be nearly what the rock trucks that we're dealing with to the east of the city are.
Right.
So, yeah, something to keep in mind. Thank you. Thank you all.
I would comment that you're absolutely correct. Driving an electric car, in a parking lot and whatnot, we really have to recognize that people don't
They
particularly
can't hear you coming.
the car.
Yep.
So you can't assume. That's why they walk down the middle of the road.
So there's hope when we get our new electric cars that we can have a speaker system playing that nice rumble we want to hear.
You can. They did it for school buses. Literally, like I remember the first ones. I was chair of the Air District when we launched them, and they brought the one out. And the first thing they showed us was here's the big old speaker system that they put in the bumper.
Yeah,
literally to make sure that kids knew that they were coming.
They had to turn up the volume on my electric car because it was too quiet. Let that roll through your
David,
mind.
maybe
Yeah.
you could order your sound to your own taste. You know,
Right.
do you want a Ferrari sound or do you want a Maserati sound?
I went with a boat
Exactly.
engine. A boat engine.
Look what you did, Donald.
A Harley sound.
I want a 1971 Le Mans. That's what I used to drive in college. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to regular calendar items. And the first is to pass a resolution adopting the Urban Forest Master Plan. And here's my tree guy.
Hey, good evening, Mayor Terry and members of the council. I'm Steve Harriman with the Department of Public Works. And in 2019, the city applied for and was awarded an Urban and Community Forestry Prop 68 grant from the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, which is CAL FIRE. And we received that grant in the amount of $369,500. This particular grant program is intended to mitigate climate change through implementation of tree planting projects with a focus on planting in low-income and under-canopied neighborhoods. So our grant agreement with CAL FIRE included a few things. One, it included the Urban Forest Master Plan, which we're presenting tonight. It included additional staff time from the Sacramento Tree Foundation to do community engagement and outreach and to help us organize planting events. We included a contract with the Sacramento Regional Conservation Corps so they could help us with planting projects. And it also included the planting, of 750 trees during the term of the grant, which was about 3 years. And the term of the grant actually expires on March 31st of this year. So the project included the planting of 750 trees. We're going to hit about 1,050 by the end of the grant term, so we will have exceeded our grant agreement by about 300 trees, which is great news. So tonight we have a panel here. We have Ryan Allen with Dudek, and he's going to give the presentation. We also have Torrin Donovan, Rachel Patton, and Maria LaFontaine from the Sacramento Tree Foundation, and our city arborist, Lori Murphy with Davie Resource Group. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, and I hope he's still here.
I'm here, Steve.
Okay, all right. Hi, Ryan.
Well, it's a pleasure to everyone tonight, council members, and I'm glad to be able to present on the Rancho Cordova Urban Forest Master Plan. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. I work with Dudek. We're an environmental consulting firm that is based in Southern California, but we have offices locally in Sacramento and Auburn. We've been around for 42 years now. We're an employee-owned company, and as an environmental consulting firm, we can help take any project from design through implementation. I get to work with our urban forestry group. I'm a certified arborist and a municipal specialist, and I help lead our urban forest management planning team. Go ahead, next slide. So just real briefly, we're going to walk through what went into developing the plan, some vision guiding principles, some of the key findings, the main takeaways from our analysis, and then provide some next steps. So what goes into an urban forest master plan? Some of you may be familiar with this or maybe not, but essentially what we worked with Steve and the team to help develop was long-term vision for the maintenance and development of the urban forest, putting together all the steps that we'll take from where we are now to where we want to be. The next, in doing that, we did a really thorough analysis of all the management practices, funding, ordinances, and policies that go into the urban forest program. You see the pie chart on the right side of the screen there reflects a lot of the different areas that we looked at, or folks that we interviewed, to give you an idea of what went all into the master plan review. Taking our analysis, working with the city staff, SAC tree staff, and with input from the community members, we helped develop a strategic plan with specific goals and objectives and recommended actions that the city can take to improve tree canopy cover in the city. We included an implementation plan with prioritized actions with the time frame to be completed within the next 1 to 3 years. And then ultimately, the Urban Forest Master Plan, it really is a living document. We've all learned over the last couple of years that there can be very unexpected changes in our day-to-day routine. The environmental conditions can change unexpectedly, financial conditions can change unexpectedly, and the priorities and that the city is working through need to be reviewed to make sure that they still line up with the realities that exist within the city. Next slide. I think Steve hit on a lot of the points on this slide here, but just again, a brief overview of what went into development of the Urban Forest Master Plan and the total CAL FIRE grant award. Go ahead and skip to the next slide. So the vision statement, again, this was developed with the city staff, Sacramento Tree Foundation staff, with taking the priorities that we derived from our interactions with community members and interviews with city staff and elected officials, that the Rancho Cordova Urban Forest Master Plan vision statement would be working in partnership as community members, stakeholders, and the city. We will improve public health, access to nature, and environmental equity for all Rancho Cordova through sustainable management of the urban forest. Next slide. So within that, the vision statement providing that overall large picture of where we want to be over the next 30 to 40 years. And then within that, we broke down the vision statement into these smaller subset categories with our guiding principles that are really larger buckets that we can direct specific actions of the strategic plan, goals, and recommended actions, give them some specific focus to areas that we identified through the process that are priority values and needs for the community. First being access and equity. Second, healthy and active communities. Third, a city plan for trees. Next slide. Fourth, providing resources for sustainable management. Fifth, partnerships and engagement. And then finally, resiliency and climate change. So these are all the areas that we saw that were priorities for the city and that we would emphasize within the plan. Next slide. So what were some of the strengths that we identified? There are a lot of strong partnerships within Rancho Cordova and its urban forest program, notably the Sacramento Tree Foundation, SMUD, parks districts, and school districts, but also local businesses, other community groups and volunteers, like the volunteers in neighborhood services. All those partnerships bring different backgrounds, skills, experience that really help increase the resources and capacities of the urban forest program. Within that, again, there's a strong commitment by city staff to focus on community member engagement and participation in achieving urban forestry goals. It was very evident throughout the process that the city values community input, wants community members to participate in planting trees, coming to volunteer events, and wants that to be, and makes that something that is focused on. The management activities that we recognize as strong points of the program, that there's funding for a 5-year pruning cycle. Again, funding for community engagement activities and those tree planting activities. And then last, everyone we spoke to during the interview process, city staff, community partners, other parks districts, school districts representatives. Everybody really valued trees and expressed a strong desire that Rancho Cordova should have a world-class urban forest that should have a high canopy cover, and that it was something prioritized in daily actions. Go to the next slide. So it's pretty appropriate. The last presentation is a lot of what some of what we'll be talking about here right now. We broke up the city into two distinct areas for our analysis purposes. We have the undeveloped area, which we are referring to as the part of the city east of Sunrise Boulevard, and then the developed area being west of Sunrise Boulevard. So with this first topic here of challenges to the future growth in Rancho Cordova, we're specifically talking about the area east of Sunrise Boulevard. What we see on here in this first slide with this picture on the left is a neighborhood or street in Herodian Avenue in the Antonio community, planned and developed 15, 20 years ago. You can see the parkway width here is measured out at 5.5 feet. You have some really nice, large, healthy sycamore trees that were planted there 15 years ago. And we can see that sidewalk is being lifted and disrupted. And because of that infrastructure conflict, the city is now having to go back and remove those trees, which you can see a newly planted tree in the front of that picture. And the spacing limitations and the ability to have large tree canopy cover is really, it's really up to the planning processes that are available right now and making, excuse me, appropriate decisions about what trees are going in what places and making sure the right trees are going in the right places. With this parkway size, the decision could have either been to plant a smaller tree for that parkway size, or planning that neighborhood to have a larger parkway that would accommodate a sycamore tree, so you could have larger tree cover, larger canopy cover, more environmental services and benefits. Again, on the picture on the right, a lot of the new developments are taking up most of the lot. There's not a front yard space or a backyard space. So where are we going to plant trees to increase canopy cover and get those services to the community and have that high quality of life that I heard some of you all talking about on the previous presentation? Again, spacing and tree selection are extremely important, and all that begins in the early planning processes before these communities get built. Go ahead to the next slide. Just to give some perspective of when we're talking about putting the right trees in right places, small trees can go in small places, but large trees can't. So we see on the bottom of this graphic, if you have a 5-foot wide parkway, like the one that we saw previously pictured, you should expect to be able to fit a tree that's a small tree that gets about 20 to 35 feet wide. Again, moving up to an 8-foot wide parkway, getting a medium tree, maybe up to 50 feet wide, tall and wide at the largest. And then when you get to a 10-foot wide parkway, that's when you get your really large trees and your biggest benefits. And it's important as we're looking at site plans, as decisions are being made about tree species and the locations that they're being planted, that these kind of decisions are made within the reality and the framework of what actually can fit there. And part of that is making sure you have an arborist review these plans to make sure spacing and tree species selection align. So going to the next slide. So this is kind of what we're hoping for, what the ideal condition can look like in Rancho Cordova with proper planning and proper decision making early on in the beginning of that process. We have a larger 8-foot wide parkway. We have trees that are appropriate for that location. We got shade going over the street, shade going over the sidewalk. It's going to be a beautiful tree-lined street that's going to provide lots of canopy cover and a healthy living environment for those residents and community members. Slide. So just some considerations. I believe it's approximately 25,000 new homes that are going to be built in that developing area of Rancho Cordova. You have so much potential to make that area an extremely high canopy covered neighborhood. It's very unusual for urban planners, or at least urban forestry planners, to get to work in a relatively blank canvas. You typically have houses already built, sidewalks are there, your decisions are somewhat limited. But in this case, it's really not. You really have the ability to plan those communities with trees in mind from the beginning of the process to get the canopy cover that you want. And within that, like I said, following those right tree, right place principles, making sure a city arborist is reviewing plans and species selections in the beginning of the process, that trees are included as that image structure from the beginning. And then again, the larger the tree you get, the bigger return on investment that you get from that. Next slide. So with the other portion of the city that we call the developed area, the main challenge is how are we going to increase canopy cover within an already built environment? The pie chart on the right represents the land use classification for the developed area of the city, with about 12% tree canopy cover, and 50% of that area is impervious surface and water, so places where trees can't go. And as we see here, it's going to take approximately 18,600 trees that have a 50-foot wide spread to go from 12% to 20% canopy cover. And that equates to approximately 651 large stature trees being planted every year over the next 30 years. So the main challenge here is how are we going to get these trees in the ground and where are they going to go? And the next slide. So we've identified some different areas where we thought tree planting could be prioritized, or actions could be prioritized to increase canopy cover. And first is, the most obvious is private property, residential homes. There's already a great program with the partnership with Sacramento Tree Foundation and SMUD to get free trees onto these residential properties. And that provides a real significant area, not only to just get trees planted for canopy cover, but in turn, helping to reduce energy costs for residents, providing shade over those sidewalks and neighborhoods to help have a cooler and healthier communities. Parking lots, we just saw a great example of that site plan, making sure site plans like that meet the 50% shading requirement, but within that there is enforcement of that ordinance after the fact. It's good to see it on site plans, it's good to see it when it's planted, but if the trees are not maintained properly and that 50% is not continued, then the city is losing out on an opportunity to cool really hot surfaces and have canopy cover. Stormwater basins. Again, on that site plan, another stormwater basin is represented there. This is the Bear Hollow project, where there's large number of trees planted, large species of trees planted, great opportunities to increase canopy cover, and also planting native trees in an area where it can provide habitat for wildlife. Next slide. Using existing partnerships with the parks and school districts is another great opportunity. Those are two significant landholders within the city, and the city, since they're not city managed properties, through those partnerships can increase canopy cover and also do it in areas that are of high need. Parks are people's backyards. There's places where people go to recreate, and schools are, where the children are going to school, having that high quality environment for them for their education. And then finally, open space is another, the final place we identified. Again, large areas like around the American River Parkway are great opportunities for planting trees, as well as planting native tree species that are conducive to the already existing environment and provide that habitat and wildlife diversity. Next slide. So finally, just some priority actions. One, looking at development standards for new residential communities. Like I said, focusing on right tree, right place, very basic concept, but very important. Enforcing the 50% parking lot shading requirement. Building capacity, there's already good funding within the program, but continuing to fund or funding the city arborist position to be full-time. And ensuring there's funding there to support management actions of the urban forest master plan. Third, urban forest sustainability, making sure that there's appropriate diversity within the numbers of trees and species that are planted. That is one of the best ways to ensure that a specific threat, like a pest or disease, does not significantly impact a large portion of the canopy cover across the city. And then within that, let's make sure that we're planting trees that are adjusted to the future climate conditions of the city, that are low water use, drought tolerant, and will be able to be sustained through the future climate conditions that are expected for Rancho Cordova. Next slide. Increasing canopy cover. The city's already doing a good job of prioritizing planting trees in low-income communities and areas identified on the Cal Virus Screen Score map, and that's something to make sure it's important to continue. Again, utilizing parks, stormwater basins, those areas that can support large stature trees. Finally, increasing with community engagement, increasing funding for the Sacramento Tree Foundation to increase the tree planting activities on private property. They're the main driver and leader of that program, and increasing and getting more trees and more community member involved would be supported by increasing their staff time. And then finally, develop an urban forest advisory committee. This would be a committee that could be made up of city staff, community representatives of community organizations or organizations like SMUD, as well as community members to work together to look at the priorities of the urban forest master plan, see how the city is progressing towards meeting its goals, and then providing further recommendations and advice as to how to reorganize priorities as they're met or conditions change within the city. Next slide. So just the next steps. First step would be adopting the resolution to approve the UFMP tonight. That would give Steve and staff the opportunity to take action on the priorities of the plan and get to work. Again, working with the community members, staff to continue to look at the priorities and objectives of the plan and then reorganize and reclassify those as needed. And then ensuring accountability by assigning staff roles and responsibilities to complete specific actions of the implementation plan. So we know who's gonna do what and when that will be completed. And with that, the next slide, but just wanna thank everybody for your time. Let me present on the UFMP tonight, and glad to help answer any questions that I can.
Okay, we don't need to open a public hearing. Do we have public comment on this item?
We do. The city clerk's office received a public comment via email that has been distributed to the city council. It's available for the public in the back of the room and is available on the city's website. That is from Faiza Mughal. And I have 2 speaker cards for those in the room. Faiza Mughal is the first, and following Faiza will be Angel Ball. And then I will go to Zoom.
Hello, this is Faiza Mughal in Lincoln Village. My comment is posted on the city website, but I'm just going to do a little highlight reel here. Planting trees in parks and parklets won't be sufficient to offset the effects of dense development, increased pollution, increased frequency of major heat events, increased population, and to promote community well-being. Rancho Cordova should seek to carve out a niche as a regional leader in urban forestry concepts in conjunction with dense housing. So definitely adopt staff recommendations to incorporate more space for bigger trees in the new development areas. Increasingly, this is a trend I'm seeing in Rancho Cordova, especially neighborhoods like mine. Increasingly, residents are pouring concrete over their green spaces to expand their parking options. I think the city should explore programs that incentivize reducing car ownership because it might lower the desperation to pave over green spaces on private lots for parking, and that would also preserve opportunities to establish trees. Between pages 56 to 69, there's a series of like programming steps, and they were pretty awesome. I was surprised about this master plan. It's really good. There's a few things I'd like to add on though. Create an opportunity for residents to use the Rancho Connect app to sign up for stump removals. So I know that was brought up in the plan for tree pruning, but make it a one-stop shop option for residents to find out about or apply for tree services for residents. Also, I think I'm gonna need you guys to retroactively enforce parking lot canopy requirements in our established commercial lots that are currently out of compliance. If possible, subsidize this where the need is demonstrably great. For example, where we have high heat table indices and high pollution hazards. And yes, definitely follow staff recommendation to integrate trees and tree strategies with the bike and pedestrian master plans, but please don't forget about doing that with the climate action plan and the environmental justice element. I did hear something about a tree advisory, and once again, I always have the same line of comment. You will need to affirmatively market and recruit for your tree advisory positions because the way that outreach works right now, you're not really netting a broad spectrum of your demographic. And we see that play out in advisory positions as well. So intentional recruitment of diversity in a tree advisory committee, that's my recommendation. We received about $84K per year for programming, including the Neighborhoods program, but as an identified Neighborhoods lead, I found I had to chase the coordinator for information. I was turned down for tree planting and community education opportunities I wanted to offer at events that I organized.
Please wrap up your comments.
Thank you. And I have organized a few outdoor events completely safely during the pandemic. So that was pretty disappointing to me, and I'd like to see the monies used more effectively. And the stump removal program, the brainchild of resident Angel Ball, is an example of citizens participating in solutions that benefit the entire community, and it makes the argument that more citizen-led programming is better. A barrier to stump program uptake is the lack of opportunities for the community to lead and tailor their own engagement and education efforts. Thank you.
Angel Ball?
That's okay, I'm not gonna take it.
There are chairs up front. You don't have to walk that far each time.
Yeah, but these are all on camera. This is my 3 minutes, right?
I'll make sure the cameraman starts to
Oh,
aim
no,
back there
I
in the
should have
back.
never said anything. My name is Angel Ball. I live in the Cordova Vineyards neighborhood. The first thing that I want to do is a couple of thank yous. I want to thank Cyrus and Steve for getting this document out so that we could get as many comments as we could. So I appreciate you both doing that. And I'm thankful to be part of this process. I feel like today is the party for this whole last 2 years of stuff. So with that said, I want to make a comment about partnership. I love the fact that the partnership word is like the first 6th word in the mission or the vision. And a successful partnership is open communication, accessibility, flexibility, mutual benefit, measurable results. Access and equity, I love this part of all communities will have equal access to trees. And then the last part is, I feel that private property is the area that we could benefit the most. It's our greatest opportunity, in my opinion. So I like priority 5 very much, but I'd like to move it up to priority 1. And the advisory needs to be changed to active tree champions. And you can take out the word active, you can put community, committee, group, partners, but I really like tree champions, and I think that says a lot for any kind of a group that wants to talk about trees. Thank you.
And Mayor Terry, I do not see any hands that are raised in Zoom.
Okay, colleagues, any questions for staff on this? Come on, I was gonna say.
I have comments.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say, if Linda doesn't
Comments,
have at least a
Linda.
comment or a question, I'm gonna question her, her passion for trees
She's the
here.
founding president of the Tree
That's
Foundation.
right.
Linda probably has something to.
Oh, Linda's got her hand
A founding
raised.
board member, I'm not
You know what,
exactly
David?
sure, but
I think out of all due respect, I think Vice Mayor Budge gets to go first on this one. Then we'll take
Yeah,
Councilmember Sanders.
Let's do that.
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so I just had a couple of comments. Moving into a new neighborhood in 2002 and then watching the neighborhood mature. And it's a neighborhood, obviously that had an original landscape plan by the original home builder that was adopted by the city. And each street had a different tree theme so that they wouldn't all, be the same tree, the way we all used to see mulberries and elm trees planted all over everywhere. But the biggest issue, in addition to people paving over their front yards, was the fact that people took out the tree that the home builder originally put in. And unfortunately, then that meant their lot was not in compliance with the adopted development plan, number one. But number two, and of course, as much as we have tried ever since the drought, any drought began, to remind people, and Steve, you've done your part, we've all done our part, but to remind people that taking out their tree is the last thing they ought to do, because the tree provides the environment that helps to keep the house cooler so they don't have to run their air conditioner in the summertime. And, lose the grass, don't plant cute flowers, whatever, but keep your tree. So the question is, number one, I know that we have refined our tree list, and that's a good thing. But I'm wondering if we've, especially because we have so many residents who have come from other parts of the world, have we thought about adding to the tree list things that they might have preferred to have because it's more productive for them? When Cyrus and I had this conversation years ago, we were thinking about fruit and nut trees, things that could be valuable, in their home cooking or whatever. And I realize we have a lot of people who've come from very arid climates, and I am not talking about palm trees. Thank you very much, Garrett. But trees that that they might have been accustomed to are. I'm pleased that we now have some things like mesquites and some of the willows that grow in the Southwest so handsomely. But I'm wondering if we could help to keep people from taking out the original street tree if we provided more of an international variety in their in our home builders' tree selections.
And does that represent a question? I think it does.
That's the end.
Yeah. Could I turn that over to maybe to Torin from the Tree Foundation, or maybe Lori from Davie to respond to that one? If they're on.
Yeah, This is Lori. Thanks, Steve. And Linda, I think that's really excellent because, and we do try to include, trees that fruit and produce nuts. Those are on our lists as well. We also really need to take into account trees that do well in our area too. So we're always looking for new trees, and I think it's a good idea for us to maybe revise our tree list occasionally. The tree list that we have is a couple of years old. Working with Dudek and Ryan here, we did actually add a few more trees, and I think it's great because the bigger variety we have, the more resilient our urban forest will be. So I think that's a great idea, and I do think that we should be revising our tree list, our master tree list, on a regular basis.
So I would add to that. I'm extremely sympathetic with David's comment in the last hearing about planting evergreens. But if we think back to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was a comment that we should stop planting coastal redwoods, which really hurts a lot of people because, for me as a planner, permitting commercial adjacent to residential, the first thing I did was propose a masonry wall with coastal redwoods or some significant evergreen in order to shield the adjacent residential from the commercial on the other side of the wall. But here again, like on International, Steve has put in some, Steve, are they mesquite or Palo Verde?
Palo Verde.
Okay, and Palo Verde is a gorgeous tree. Whether it's yellow or green, it's a gorgeous, or blue, it's a gorgeous tree. I mean, it can be a gorgeous tree. And, those kinds of things that we bring up from the more arid parts of the United States need to be incorporated into our urban forest.
Definitely. I totally agree.
Any other questions, Linda? Or comments? No. Okay, David, go ahead.
David's turn.
Sure. I just want to thank and congratulate staff on this report. This is a really great piece of work. And frankly, I think we need to adopt and pursue every bit of the recommendations in here. Years ago, I don't even know which term it was. One of my terms serving as mayor, Ray Trethway, when he was executive at the Sacramento Tree Foundation. Oh, I should say my wife was a board member at the Tree Foundation way back, but Linda was one of the founders. But Ray Trethway and I came up with a challenge for Rancho Cordova in terms of tree planting. I think that would be the first time we did that in Rancho Cordova. And what I wanted, the goal I wanted, and the goal that this plan points to is that we ought to set ourselves apart from the region as the city of trees, because our canopy has now declined to 12% in the developed area, and that is not really something to be proud of. The 20% goal in here is what we should be after, but to get there, it's going to take a lot of effort, and we have some serious sort of structural barriers in our way. Things like, in those aging, existing legacy neighborhoods, the developer's original tree in the front yard is probably gone, or it's standing there dead, or we have a stump in place. And until our Strong Neighborhoods program, with the great work of people in the room, came up with the idea that we should be getting rid of those stumps and replacing them with a tree, that was an all too common phenomenon that Angel and others noticed, and Angel suggested we do something about in front yards. So that sort of stump activity, I think, is sort of like just the edge of what we ought to be working on. Steve, you came to us not long ago with the story when you saw a neighbor cutting down a perfectly good tree in the front yard, I think in the White Rock neighborhood maybe, and you approached him, you stopped and said, can we help you replace this tree? And it turns out it was a landlord cutting down the tree because they were tired of paying people for raking up the leaves. So they would rather just cut the tree down off the rental property than have to deal with the presence of a tree. And of course, what were they replacing the tree with? Dirt, right? So your story was there's no landscaping there at all. There was a tree, now the tree's gone. Maybe we need an ordinance that says, you know, if you have a rental house in Rancho Cordova, you must have a tree in the front yard. I mean, something like that. It's a requirement of rental property ownership, because that's an easier step for us to take than to sort of mandate everybody has a tree in their front yard. But for rental property, you know, that they could fall victim easily to a landlord that does that to them. And then what does it do? It lowers the quality of life for the people living there. It raises their utility bills. Not something the landlord has to deal with, but the renter certainly does. And the neighbors do. The neighbors suffer from that. So I think, you know, tree stump removal is great. Replacing those tree stumps is great. Maybe cracking down on rental owners and coming up with a requirement that they actually maintain a tree in the front yard might be a good idea. But doing an awful lot of significant outreach to people about the benefits of trees. And we have to do that, though, in a way that the tree actually survives. Because in many cases, early on, I don't doubt that we probably put trees out there and then saw owners who didn't do anything to maintain that tree. You know, so the tree got no water, et cetera. So we came up with ideas of, well, we're going to have to water the tree. So in addition to planting the tree, we're going to have to water it until it's established. And we better pick something that's drought tolerant, because we can't count on the owner to actually maintain it. So we have to be really smart about how he does this. But I think this plan actually does that. So my goal for Rancho Cordova is that we be the regional leader in trees, that we work hard to get our canopy to that 20% level. And I was particularly moved by the funding that was sort of outlined in your plan that shows us in a very unfortunate way as sort of the lowest funder of tree canopies in our region. That is not the position we ought to be in, not when we have resources like Measure R available for infrastructure. And trees are, I think, a very important part of our infrastructure. They make our sidewalks more habitable, more usable if you're walking in shade as opposed to just, you know, blaring sunlight. So our old neighborhoods in particular, I think, are subject to this loss of canopy, and that's probably the low-hanging fruit for going back and picking them up. I think those parking lot standards in cases where business owners have cut down trees because they're worried that their business can be seen, or parking lots that no longer have or have never gotten anywhere near the coverage that they're supposed to have, either under county approval or our approval. Those are things we ought to go after, and probably in many cases proactively, in the sense that we will help fund it, because we may not be able to enforce some of those old parking lot standards if the county can't find the documents from their approval that actually required it. That's a problem for us, dealing with old parking lot approvals. So our budget is low for this, but our canopy is low. This is something we have got to address for the future health and value of our community. So I look forward to seeing something aggressive from city staff in this area under Measure R. And I also think we need a citizen corps here to advise us. I don't care what they're called. Tree champion sounds great. Rancho Cordova tree champion, something like that. But we need some true civic engagement at the literally tree root level to be sure we get this done for Rancho Cordova, because this is something that we can invest a little and harvest a very big reward.
Thank you, David. Any other comments?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm back. So, David, you pointed out a genius point. Decades ago, FHA loans, houses that were bought with FHA loans were all required to have a tree in the front yard. So we need to know what the current status of that kind of requirement might be.
That's very interesting.
I know FHA doesn't have that requirement today.
No more?
Not
Really?
that I've never heard of that in the last decade.
Okay, well, like I said, this was the 70s. Seriously, this was decades ago. But Larchmont, specifically Larchmont, MJ Brock was putting a tree in everybody's front yard because that's what the FHA loans all said, and that's how the majority of people were buying loans. I mean, we're buying houses. In terms of parking lot standards, Albert, Steve, you and Albert have been really successful in beating up on people who have come through and chopped down their perfectly respectable perimeter landscaping under the guise that you can't see their gas station, which is ridiculous, or their Staples building, which is way taller than their poor little tree. So, I fully support that. One of the things we've talked about in the past, and I know you've brought this up, is the fact that there are some large office building owners that would like to put solar in their parking lot. Have we designed a development standard that requires them to keep the mature trees on their perimeter, even though we may allow them to take down the initially planted trees that was supposed to achieve their 50% shading in 15 years, even though we may allow them to take down those trees in the middle, but they have to keep the perimeter that makes it look like that's a shaded parking or a landscape parking lot.
That is a great question, Linda, because what the state did at the Teal Data Center is just so offensive. Cut down all those trees and put up these really awful looking solar panels with just like rock and rubble around the perimeter of their property with a big wrought iron fence. I mean, it's hideous what they did.
And they've been ignoring Ken Cooley's call for the last, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
To replace the stupid landscaping on White Rock.
We may never be able to, mitigate the state's craziness in doing that, but, any other site we should be able to.
If I were in charge, I'd go out and plant their landscape and lean them for it. That sound like a good idea?
I think Cyrus has a shovel in his trunk, so.
I think he does too.
And I have used it.
He was just telling me he's planted 100 trees, but with his bare hands.
Yeah.
Thank you, colleagues. Garrett, Siri, anything to add? No? Okay.
Okay, but that really was a question. Have we thought about amending our development standards to allow people to do something like that?
Would that be something that we could discuss
That would
tonight?
be an Albert.
Let Albert respond to that.
If we have or we haven't, but
I guess my first question is that germane to the plan? Talking about development standards. Yeah.
Development standards would help to implement the plan.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Our development standards implement the plan.
Go ahead, Albert.
Good evening, Mayor Terry and members of the council. Albert Stricker with the Public Works Department. And the protections that we do have within our existing tree ordinance do not allow removal of any protected trees on residential and commercial properties, including the perimeter trees, unless certain findings are met that are fairly strict. So actually, all of the trees on those properties are protected.
Okay. We might think about whether we want to facilitate the installation of solar panels and how we want to do it. And of course, that really only applies to our business district, larger office parks, that kind of thing. As David says, we don't want to look like the Teal Data Center.
I would agree, and I think that's probably an item for a future agenda to tackle. Okay. Any other comments or questions for staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So I would move adoption of our urban forest master plan resolution.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second. A motion by Budge, a second by Pulapati. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Pulapati,
Yes.
Councilmember Sander,
Aye.
Councilmember Gatewood,
Yep.
Vice Mayor Budge,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Aye. The resolution is agreed to. Okay, moving on to 12.2. Hopefully this will go short. I did bring this up at the last meeting, and I just want to kind of air it to everybody so that we kind of have it officially, because it was an agenda item that came out with this working group. So my thought process behind this was that Councilmember Gatewood, which was the first one to offer to join me on this committee for the mobile home subcommittee, would join me in the negotiations. And really, my reasoning behind this, after some additional thought, was three of us took the position that we would have adopted what the staff's recommendation was. We're open to negotiation, but the negotiation really is with the majority of the council that was willing to take the action. And any negotiation wouldn't be from a position that the industry has, which is to do nothing. So we brought it up at the last meeting. If there are two council members that agree with me, we can just move on and start to get these meetings scheduled, because we've already delayed it because I've changed my mind. So any discussion on this one? No. Okay. Do we need to take a formal motion and action?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion.
I don't think we're sure what you're asking for.
I'm pretty sure I just
Change
explained
the
it.
composition of the committee?
Correct. To being Councilmember Gatewood and myself.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gatewood?
Yep.
Councilmember Pulapati?
Yes.
Councilmember Sander?
No.
Vice Mayor Budge?
Abstain.
Okay.
Mayor Terry?
Aye. Okay. Motion carries. Council request for future agenda items. Anybody got
Did you want
a new idea?
Did you want to do Linda's idea
That's too close.
about the trees?
Garrett, that doesn't have to be a council agenda item.
Okay.
It's just a matter of staff doing, revising development standards.
Okay.
So the next time we do that, I think the direction is that will be included. Yeah. Okay.
I think one clarification, Mr. Mayor, the improvement standards or development standards are kind of a living task or living document, because industry changes, new products come on the market, so we're always and constantly revising the requirements of this. So this could be one of those items that we could address with our development community.
Okay. Any other ideas that anybody's got?
No, just that we adjourn in memory of.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm going to do that right now, Linda.
We have a closed session.
So we're going to.
I just came back from the NLC. I've got about 100 ideas, but I'm not going to push any of those just now.
I feel like we
Maybe I
need.
to let them-
I feel like we almost need to move
need to
this
let
to
them simmer a little.
Yeah, I feel like we need to move this item to not be the last thing that we do, and we all go, oh God, people want to add more things. Maybe as part of our council reports, you can include this, just like Linda does her adjourned in memory of.
That's not bad. Yeah, I kind of like that.
We can talk about that maybe at our whatever we're calling next week's
No,
meeting.
we talk about it now. I think you have consensus from your council members on that one.
We may need to see how we agendize that legally. So anyway, we're going to adjourn into closed session. We're going to adjourn in the memory of Jean Humphrey. I said that right, Linda, didn't I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So we will stand adjourned, and we'll be back to report out from closed session. I was just going to, you want to just jump into this room and we'll join on my phone?